Chapter 1963, at this moment. Regardless of whether it was Noah's group on the island or the warriors of the various mythical forces above the ocean, all of them seemed to have been frozen in place by the space, and their bodies stiffened. An unimaginable chill, like an electric current, rushed from everyone's back and went straight to their brain, making everyone's eyes widen slightly. Noah's pupils also shrank fiercely, and even his fists subconsciously clenched. Orpheus and Lilith, who suddenly appeared, stared at the sky from beginning to end, attracting Noah's attention. When Noah's eyes turned to the sky, and the scene in the sky was in his field of vision, he finally saw it. He saw a black shadow. A black shadow with a ferocious appearance slowly emerged from the space that seemed to be split open. That black shadow, although a little far away, Noah still saw its full appearance clearly. It was a ferocious alien. Its body easily exceeded several hundred meters in size. Its body was the shape of some kind of beast. There were 7 heads in total. Some were like lions. Some were like cheetahs. Some were like black bears. Some were like dragons. The 7 heads were completely different. Even the body with the shape of a beast had the characteristics of a variety of creatures, which was very strange. If there was any special feature of such an alien, it would probably be the horns on its head. There were 10 horns on the alien's head. On the 10 horns, there was a crown-like crown. And on the crown, 3 numbers were clearly engraved. 666, such an alien slowly emerged from a crack in space, as if it was pushed out by something, and appeared in the sky. The heads of the aliens seemed to be sleeping, and they all closed their eyes. However, on the huge ferocious appearance of the alien, there was an indescribable, extremely evil and ominous frenzy that numbed the 5 senses and was enough to prick the skin. Constantly fluctuated, and it was getting stronger and stronger. The oppressive feeling that made the whole world freeze, and made all the Asura gods and Buddhas shiver, came from the evil and ominous frenzy. Only at this moment, Noah understood. That was not an ordinary thing. That was a monster that could turn this world into a scorched earth and pure hell. That evil and ominous arrogance was not in the least inferior to Aziz Dakaha, who was ranked in the top 3 of the final human trial in the box. At the same time, the rest of the people also began to notice the terrible beast in the sky. Well, what is that? One by one, the famous Asura gods and Buddhas from various mythical forces stared blankly at the beast with the terrifying frenzy, and for a moment, even their minds became blank. All the Asura gods and Buddhas lost the ability to react, and all looked up at the terrible alien, without a word, making the entire sky above the ocean become dead silent. Only Michael and Asashel looked at the number 666, engraved on the beast's crown, and their faces turned pale in an instant. How could this be? How could this be? Michael had never lost his composure like this before as he murmured in disbelief. But why did it appear here? Damn it! Asashel's entire body began to tremble. That thing actually exists? In the past, Michael and Asashel's loss of composure would definitely make everyone's jaws drop. However, at this moment, no one could laugh at Michael and Asashel. Even if it was Noah, it would be the same. Because after seeing the number on the ferocious beast's crown, no one would not understand what it represented. In the Bible's revelation, the number 666 represented the devil and had the meaning of blasphemy. The origin of this number was a beast recorded in the Bible's revelation. It was said that the beast had 7 heads, 10 horns, and a crown on the horns, and 3 blasphemous numbers were engraved on the crown, 666. It was an emperor beast on par with the Great Red, who was known as the true Red Dragon Emperor. The chapter that recorded its existence was right next to the Great Red. However, its existence had not been confirmed by anyone until now. No one could find it. Everyone had only heard of it. If it was said that the mythical forces here were just legends to humans, then its existence was considered a legendary level to all the mythical forces in the legends. It was a legend among legends, a legend among legends. And those who knew of its existence all called it this. Beast Emperor 666, Trihexa. It was as famous as the Great Red, and its strength was comparable to the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God in the legends. Now, this beast emperor had appeared in front of all the mythical forces. In the worst possible form. In the next second, under the gaze of all the Asura gods and Buddhas of the mythical forces, the ferocious beast in the sky slowly opened its eyes. Lowering its head, looking at the densely packed Asura gods and Buddhas that almost covered the entire sea, the eyes of the beast emperor 660X's 7 heads were filled with ruthlessness and madness. A terrifying roar fell from the sky like a storm, smashing down from above, as if an invisible heavy pressure, fiercely hitting the Asura gods and Buddhas of the mythical forces. At this moment, everyone present, whether it was gods, demons, humans, angels, or vampires, all felt as if their souls were being ruthlessly torn apart, and their eardrums were instantly shattered. Suddenly, all the Asura gods and Buddhas covered their ears, lowered their heads, and let out painful screams. And this action made all the Asura gods and Buddhas unable to hear it. They could not hear Athasiel's hoarse shout. "Run!" Almost at the moment when Athasiel's shout was easily swallowed up by the Beast Emperor's 660 SIXS roar, the Beast Emperor's 666 in the sky moved. It raised one of its 7 heads, opened its ferocious beast mouth, and spat out a huge fireball into the dense crowd below. A huge fireball that was as big as a burning star, like a falling sun, fell at a terrifying speed. The fireball evaporated the atmosphere, burned the water vapor, and at the same time the temperature of the entire world rapidly rose to an alarming degree. It fell heavily on the sea like a meteorite. With a deafening roar, the huge fireball exploded, turned into a terrifying sea of fire, and instantly covered a large area of the sea. In the sea of fire, the sea water evaporated and became boiling like magma. In the sea of fire, the atmosphere was burned up, and it became extremely hot like a volcano. In the sea of fire, the unfortunate Asura gods and Buddhas that were engulfed in the sea of fire did not even have time to scream before they were all burned to ashes by the flames and disappeared without a trace. Whether it was humans, demons, angels, fallen angels, vampires, or even gods, they all became extremely fragile and lost their precious lives in an instant. Looking at all of this, the most primitive fear finally rose in everyone's hearts. The terrible roar that was enough to tear the soul continued to rage in the sky, revealing the beginning of the end. Chapter 1964. Euclid knelt on the ground and looked at the terrifying beast in the sky. He seemed to be in a daze as he murmured in his sleep. 666 really woke up. Seeing Euclid's expression, how could they not understand? The appearance of the Beast King 666 was definitely related to the cluster of disasters. "Bastard!" Asashel grabbed Euclid's collar and said angrily, "What did you do?" Euclid seemed to have woken up at this moment. He gritted his teeth and fell into silence. Looking at Euclid's reaction, the anger in Asashel's heart grew stronger. Just as Asashel was about to attack Euclid, Syzax stared at Euclid with a serious expression that was never seen before. "Tell us, why did the Beast King 666 appear?" Hearing this, Euclid looked up and glanced at Syzax, then at Eulethia who was staring at him. He laughed self-deprecatingly. "Because the Beast King 666 is our trump card." "Your trump card?" Michael asked in disbelief. "In other words, the cluster of disasters has always had 666? "No, we only found 666 after obtaining the Holy Grail." Euclid shook his head. "The Holy Grail can subvert the principles of life. When we used the Holy Grail to revive the evil dragon, we coincidentally discovered 660 SIXS life force and found it at the end of the world." "The end of the world?" Asashel's eyes widened. "So, the Beast King 666 has always been there, and that's why it wasn't discovered?" "That's right," Euclid said expressionlessly. "Moreover, when we found it, it was sealed by countless forbidden spells and fell into an endless slumber. That's why the Beast King 666 has always been a legend. No one has been able to prove its existence. There's only one person, no, one God. A God is very sure that it exists." Euclid looked at Michael. "That is the creator of the heavens and angels, the creator of the divine artifacts, the God of the Bible. Michael's expression suddenly became pained. That's right, the only one who was certain that 666 existed was the God of the Bible. Otherwise, there would be no record of the Beast Emperor in the Bible, and it would not be listed next to the real Red Dragon Emperor. I'm afraid that before we found 666, the only one who discovered 666 was the God of the Bible, Euclid said in a low voice. Then, the God of the Holy Bible might have realized how terrifying the Beast Emperor, who was comparable to the God Emperor Crimson Dragon and the Infinite Dragon God, was. He discovered that the Beast Emperor had a wild and ferocious nature that could destroy everything. He would definitely not be like the God Emperor Crimson Dragon and the Infinite Dragon God, who would not interfere with the world. If 666 appeared, it would definitely lead the world to destruction. So, the God of the Bible sealed 666 with countless prohibition-level seals? Syzax took a deep breath. So that's why the God of the Bible died. These words were completely baffling. However, many of the people present showed understanding expressions and fell into an indescribable silence. Noah also understood why Syzax would say that. Because the death of the God of the Bible was originally filled with many mysteries. That was a God who occupied the position of a mythical God all by himself, and was known as the only God by people. He was a God who could even develop divine weapons that could give humans powers comparable to the existence of other races. Such a God, conservatively estimated to be at least in the top 10 in the world, and might even be more powerful than the God of destruction, Shiva, who was previously ranked second. In the end, how did such a powerful God die? In the ancient war between the demons, angels, and fallen angels, he perished together with the 4 demon kings. What kind of joke was this? An existence who occupied a mythical God all by himself, who could even develop divine weapons, and who was at least in the top 10 in the world, perished together with the 4 demon kings? That was simply impossible. However, the God of the Bible had died in the war with the 4 demon kings. This was something that Michael, Asashel, and the others had all witnessed. Then, why did the God of the Bible end up perishing together with the 4 demon kings? The reason was only answered at this moment. In order to seal the Beast Emperor, who was at the same level as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God, it was not difficult to imagine how weak the God of the Bible would be and how much his power would be reduced. In such a state, participating in the war between the demons, angels, and fallen angels, facing the 4 demon kings, and finally perishing together was not strange. Unfortunately, the Beast Emperor 666, who indirectly caused the death of the God of the Bible, was found by a bastard like Lezavim. Everyone could even imagine how excited Lezavim was when he saw the Beast Emperor 666. After that, in order to unlock the seal of the Beast Emperor 666, Lord Lezavim tried everything, but the speed of unlocking the seal was very slow, so Lord Lezavim could not use it to attack the major mythical powers at all. Euclid's voice began to tremble. However, just in case, Lord Lezavim also engraved a spell that was connected to his life on the Beast Emperor 666. Once he dies, his soul will become 660 SAXS nourishment, and it will forcibly skip all the unlocking procedures and directly unlock the seal of 666 and awaken him. Wah! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, the appearance of the Beast Emperor 666 was all because of Lezavim? Bastard! Asashel fiercely hammered the tree beside him, smashing the thick tree into pieces with a bang. That bastard! I see. Varley was also mad with hatred. That's why he said that if I kill him, I'll definitely regret it. Just when everyone was having a hard time adapting to the sudden information, an earth-shattering roar resounded again. Boom! As if an atomic bomb had been detonated, a huge fireball fell from mid-air and exploded in the dense crowd of Asura gods and Buddhas, setting off a violent shock wave and a terrifying sea of fire that engulfed the warriors one by one. Master, what do we do? Hurry up and attack. Stop joking. We'll die. Seeing their comrades die one after another in front of them, everyone panicked. Their faces were filled with fear. Under such circumstances, 666 was still roaring in the sky. His 7 heads spat out huge fireballs that were as hot as the sun, causing the sea of fire to burn on the sea, creating a space of water and fire. However, in this space, the Asura gods and Buddhas of the various mythical organizations were facing a fatal disaster. We can't continue watching like this. A Sashal shouted in a low voice. Get ready to fight. It's useless. Euclid laughed bitterly. That's an existence that's completely different from us. It's the Beast Emperor from the Revelation of the World. Unless it's the Emperor of God Red Dragon or the Infinite Dragon God, it's impossible to defeat it. Right? The Infinite Dragon God. Asashel turned his head and looked at Orpheus and Lilith. Orpheus, Lilith, hurry up and stop that Beast Emperor. No, we can't do it. Orpheus shook his head without hesitation. I'm no match for 666 now. It's dangerous. Lilith kept staring at 666 in the sky, her petite body trembling. The Beast Emperor is very dangerous. Seeing Orpheus and Lilith in such a state, everyone's face darkened. If it's the Infinite Dragon God in its complete form, it's still possible. But now, Orpheus and Lilith have no way of resisting 666, Euclid said stiffly. It's over for this world. However, at this moment, Wally said sarcastically. In the past, perhaps only the Emperor of God Red Dragon and the Infinite Dragon God could fight against the Beast Emperor from the Revelation of the World. But now, isn't there another person who can defeat 666? Wally raised his head and looked at the sky. Haven't you noticed that that person is no longer here? Hearing Wally's words, everyone was shocked. Bam! At the same time, a muffled thunder-like sound resounded in the sky. Chapter 1965. Boom! When the thunder-like muffled sound resounded in the sky, everyone saw it. The Beast Emperor, who was like the embodiment of Doomsday just a second ago, seemed to have been hit by something at this moment. His huge body rubbed against the air, and with a sharp piercing sound, he flew backward. Even the burning sea of fire on the surface of the sea was shaken off, and he smashed straight into the ocean. In an instant, the entire ocean seemed to have been stirred up. Huge splashes were set off, causing the splashes to turn into huge waves that surged in all directions. At the same time, a circle of shock waves also spread out on the surface of the sea, like a storm, causing waves to rise again and again. The scene was very spectacular. Looking at this scene, the Asura gods and Buddhas from the myth's forces who were in deep trouble just a second ago were all stunned. On the island, Athaziel, Syzax, Michael, Wally, and the others all raised their heads and looked at the sky. They saw that at the original position of the Beast Emperor 666, a figure that was shaking with crimson airwaves had appeared there without them noticing. On his body, the crimson airwaves were like a hurricane that could topple mountains and overturn seas. They surged violently and blew away the surrounding clouds. Not only that, but a burst of gorgeous starlight also lingered back and forth around the crimson airwaves, turning into a Milky Way that wandered constantly. It looked extremely beautiful. In direct proportion to that beauty, an extremely terrifying aura continued to rise. It was like layers upon layers of shock waves that shook the entire world. Seeing this, how could everyone still not understand? The Beast Emperor 666 was attacked, and he was smashed down from the high sky into the sea. Almost all of the Asuras and Buddhas from the various mythological forces knew who that person was. Because, long ago, the other party's name of the God-Slayer had spread to all the myth's forces. It was not until this moment that everyone remembered. That's right, they still had a trump card on their side. It was not that there was no resistance. Oh. At that moment, all the Asura gods and Buddhas from the myth's forces cheered again. However, the only response to the enthusiastic cheers was an angry voice that said, "Don't worry. All of you, stand down." Noah frowned, and his voice echoed clearly. "If you have the time to cheer, why don't you hurry up and run for your life? Do you think your life is too long if you continue to stay there?" The cheers that resounded through the clouds seemed to have been abruptly cut off and came to an abrupt halt. However, the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas from the various mythological forces were not the slightest bit angry. Instead, they seemed to have just realized that this place was not suitable for them to stay for long. At this moment, the surface of the sea that was stirred up a large amount of water seemed to be boiling as it fluctuated. Dong! Following an earth-shattering explosion, the surface of the sea suddenly exploded. It was as if the entire sea was blown apart, leading straight to the bottomless seabed. There, the huge mutated beast emperor stepped on the wet ground and let out a roar that shook the sea. The terrifying roar carried an unparalleled pressure. Not only did it shake the entire sea open, exposing the bottom of the sea to the air, but it also turned the sound waves into waves that were even more turbulent than the sea waves. They swept out in all directions like a storm. Under the roar that seemed to be able to tear the soul apart, the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas from the mythological forces once again held their heads and let out a muffled groan. As a result, even Asashel and the others on the island were affected and felt extremely uncomfortable. Quick! Asashel resisted the trembling in his heart and did not hesitate to use his power to let his voice reach everyone's ears. Get out of here quickly! Only then did everyone come to their senses and hurriedly retreat. For a moment, they were like ants scattering in all directions. Their movements were incomparably fast, causing the densely packed crowd that almost covered the entire surface of the sea to instantly retreat completely. Until then, the beast emperor that had silently shown itself rose from the bottom of the sea and flew into the air. Splash! The seawater that had been forcibly separated was like a flood that had opened the floodgates. It submerged the exposed seabed, causing the entire sea to surge. It was quite a shocking scene. Noah stared in the direction of 666. Although its appearance looked like it was pieced together by various creatures, its behavior was like that of a primate. Its body was leaning forward, and there were 4 thick limbs on its body. Its legs were thicker than its arms, and it was a bit like a Jurassic dinosaur. It did not have wings, but it could still fly in the air. Its hair was black, and there were hard things that looked like scales everywhere, as well as bright red protrusions that looked like blood. There were the same number of tails as the heads, and they were also of different shapes. Some were like lions, some were like bears, some were like leopards, and some were like dragons. They formed a correspondence with the heads. At first glance, it looked like it was pieced together by 7 animals. It was not so much a 4, but rather a 7. But it was such a strange appearance that brought a kind of fear from the bottom of one's heart. The most frightening thing was the emotions that were surging in the eyes of the 7 heads. Ruthlessness, ferocity, cruelty, coldness. It was almost a collection of all the emotions that a beast that had lost its mind should have. Not to mention, its aura was so strong that it was terrifying, as if it could destroy the world. Even the sky was affected by it. Thick layers of dark clouds appeared, and thunder began to flash. In this world, Noah had only felt such a terrifying aura from Orpheus when he was at his peak. I didn't expect that there was such a monster hidden in this world. Noah's eyes gradually became serious. No wonder the God of the Bible wanted to seal it. What do you plan to do? Drake's voice sounded in Noah's mind. Although you have the power of another cosmology and won't lose to 660 SAXS beast, but frankly speaking, with your power and 660 SAXS power, if you fight here, the entire human world will be turned upside down and usher in real destruction. So, we can only end this quickly. Noah said without any hesitation. Drake, is there a problem? Are you going to use that? Drake seemed to understand what Noah was going to do. Well, it was still incomplete before, but after Wali Lucifer demonstrated it once, I've almost adjusted it. Now, I can definitely fully exert the power of that form. Hearing this, Noah suddenly smiled and stepped forward. Boom! Suddenly, the crimson waves that fluctuated around Noah's body suddenly became violent and turned into a shocking storm. With Noah as the center, it violently surged to the entire world. A violent force rose from the crimson chi wave and soared into the sky, dispersing the thick layer of dark clouds in the sky. In the distance, Wally, who had retreated to a safe distance, was shocked. He suddenly raised his eyes, looked at Noah, and was extremely surprised. "This feeling, is it that?" As soon as his voice fell, a pair of light wings flashed out from Wally's back. "That's right, this domineering aura that seems to intend to conquer everything in the world, it can only be that." Arubian's voice sounded from the light wings. "Wally, it seems that your opponent has also completed that." Under the gaze of Wally and Arubian, in the crimson waves that turned into a storm in midair, Noah's voice seemed to resound in everyone's heart as he chanted, "I awaken as the Crimson Dragon Emperor who fuses the power of God-slaying into himself, eternal salvation through the infinite world, to the tyrannical path. I become the Emperor of the Deep Dragon, guide thee to the limit of true red and the limit of fantasy, under the tyrannical incantation." The crimson storm that raged in the entire sky fluctuated wildly, and its color gradually became deeper. Juggernaut Overdrive. Chapter 1966. Wang. A clear and audible tremor reverberated in the air above the surging ocean, covering up the thunder and lightning in the sky. Violent waves of air swept back and forth, carrying an extremely tyrannical aura. They slowly converged and turned into a dragon shadow, covering Noah's body. That dragon shadow was almost no different from when Noah used Forbidden Hand. However, its color had changed from scarlet to true red. The color was as deep as fresh blood and was extremely dazzling. Under the cover of that true red dragon shadow, Noah's aura skyrocketed several times. Feeling that tyrannical aura, all the Azuras present held their breaths, feeling that even breathing became difficult. As expected, Varley stared at that true red figure. As expected, he also improved the Tyrannosaurus Rex and developed the extreme Tyrannosaurus Rex strength without any side effects. Before heading to the territory of the vampires, Noah had obtained a total of 4 rewards during the 1 month of special training for the Jimin's dependents. 1 was an eternal and fixed enhancement. 1 was a divine power that increased the shaping property. 1 was magic power that could conjure up imagination. Another was a transformation targeted at T-Rex. On the day that the artificial artifact was completed, Drake told Noah that due to the artificial artifact's reappearance, Gauntlet could not only use Forbidden Hand, but could also use T-Rex. However, the form of the Tyrannosaurus Rex was originally a curse and ominous power. Even if Noah could rely on the 3rd perpetual motion machine and his own special physique to be immune to most of the side effects, it was still not a form suitable for long-term development. Since then, Noah had been pondering over how to improve T-Rex. During the period of special training for Jimenez's kin, Noah's 4th gain was that T-Rex's improvement had already produced results. Since then, Noah had already been able to use T-Rex without any side effects. However, that power was not complete. There were 2 reasons for that. 1 was because T-Rex's form reproduced Drake's power when he was alive. Even if he used it, he could only reach the Heavenly Dragon level at most and would not be able to advance any further. As for Noah, he was already able to reach the Heavenly Dragon rank when he only used Forbidden Hand. If he used Tyrannosaurus, which could only reach the Heavenly Dragon rank, it would not increase his strength by much. In other words, at that time, the Tyrannosaurus would be in a form that was tasteless to eat but a pity to abandon. Another reason was that Noah's Gauntlet was a subspecies of Gauntlet, while the Tyrannosaurus Rex that was recreated by the artifact was the original Gauntlet. After all, Noah had never used Tyrannosaurus before. He hadn't merged Tyrannosaurus with his avatar, so he naturally couldn't recreate a Tyrannosaurus that was suitable for him. Under the influence of the inappropriate Tyrannosaurus form, the buff Noah received could be said to be negligible. Therefore, at that time, Tyrannosaurus was not complete, and there were many things that needed to be improved. It wasn't until he saw Wally's Tyrannosaurus that didn't have any side effects and had room for growth that Noah was inspired to improve Tyrannosaurus. The final Tyrannosaurus form that was born was the current form. True Red Tyrannosaurus. Once used, it would recreate all of Drake's power when he was alive, and superimpose it on Noah's body. Moreover, this form was the same as Wally's Tyrannosaurus. They both had room for growth. And Noah himself had a 4-digit level. As for Drake, when he was at his peak, he was close to the 4-digit level. With the superimposition of the two, once Noah used Tyrannosaurus, his power would exceed the 4-digit level, reaching the same level as Orpheus and Lilith, between the 3-digit and 4-digit levels. In other words, once he used Tyrannosaurus, even without the power of another cosmology, Noah would have the power to rank first in this world. Of course, if that was the case, he wouldn't be able to defeat 666. That was because the Beast Emperor of the Tacit Record was in existence on the same level as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God. His power had reached the 3-digit level. Therefore, if he wanted to end the battle quickly, Noah had to use all of his current power. Avesta, activate. Counteracted in turn. Another cosmology. Suddenly, the bright starlight that shone like the Milky Way bloomed on the Red Dragon shadow, as if the Red Dragon shadow was draped in a light cloak made of stars. It was incomparably beautiful. At the same time, Noah's power surged crazily again, causing the red chi wave and the bright starlight to rise like burning flames, shooting into the sky and into the clouds. Gah! The pitch-black Beast Emperor seemed to have noticed that Noah's power had surged to a level that could threaten him, and immediately let out a threatening roar. Unfortunately, that roar was like announcing the start of the battle, exploding the air. Noah, whose body was surging with red chi wave and bright starlight, raised his hand high up, and a ball of heat that could melt steel suddenly gathered above his palm. The heat condensed into a huge fireball that was like a burning sun, and like a falling star, it burned the surrounding atmosphere. That was the power of 666. Didn't you have a lot of fun spitting fire just now? Noah's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Then you should also have a taste of what it feels like to be ignited by fire. Noah's raised arms suddenly shook after his words sounded. A huge fireball shot out, carrying a terrifying heat that steamed the ocean below until waves of water vapor were emitted as it shot in the direction of 666. The Beast Emperor's 666 heads roared at the same time, and all of them opened their ferocious mouths. They gathered the same amount of heat in their mouths, and under the fluctuations of the flames, they spat out huge, scorching fireballs one after another. As a result, the 8 burning fireballs that were like miniature suns all streaked across the space, with the momentum of burning everything in their path, bombarding together heavily. Boom! The sound of the explosion reverberated through the world, stirring up a violent hurricane-like shock wave that overturned the entire sea. An incomparably violent sea of fire exploded at the point of collision. In an instant, it almost covered the entire sky, dyeing the thick layer of dark clouds with a fiery red color. The Shura gods and Buddhas of the myths, who had retreated to a safe distance, looked at the earth-shattering collision. Their bodies had long been roasted by the amazing heat of the sea of fire, and their faces were covered with cold sweat. They were already so far away, but they were still sweating all over from the heat. If the distance was closer, even if all the people here were legendary creatures, and there were even gods, they would still be melted by the terrifying heat, right? The battle had just begun, and it was already so terrible? They are all monsters. It was unknown who spat out a trembling voice, but it made everyone agree with him from the bottom of their hearts. However, just as everyone was thinking this, the situation suddenly changed. Boom! In the violent sea of fire that covered the entire sky, there was a flame that suddenly began to distort. Then, the surrounding flames were burned out. The beast, what? Azazel was shocked. The flame is burning? A burning flame? Syzax was also surprised. What kind of flame is that? Only Wally's eyes lit up, and he immediately recognized the flame. Arubian, don't tell me that's right. Arubian's voice was unprecedentedly dignified. That's the fire of the Red Dragon Emperor Drake, the fire of the black flames that can burn everything in the world. It's definitely not inferior to my reducing poison at all. It's an ultimate fire that even gods fear. Even if the target is also a fire, that fire can burn it to nothing. As if to prove that Arubian was telling the truth, Black Flame's flame burned out all the surrounding flames. Immediately, it spread out without slowing down and directly shrouded the Beast Emperor 666. Ga 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 ga. The Beast Emperor 666 let out a painful roar. Chapter 1967. Bang! On the body of the huge beast, the flames continued to burn, accompanied by a series of explosions, causing the Beast Emperor 666 to roar towards the sky, its voice filled with pain. The Asuras, gods, and Buddhas who had retreated to a safe distance could clearly see that Beast Emperor 660's flesh and blood were incinerated into ashes during the process of black flames burning. However, he recovered very quickly. In the Bible, it was indeed recorded that even if one was injured, one would immediately recover. Originally, his power was far beyond that of the gods in all mythological systems. In the end, he also had the ability equivalent to an immortal body. There was no situation more troublesome than this. However, at this moment, the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas were no longer looking at the Beast Emperor with fear in their eyes. Instead, there was only sympathy and pity. This was because Li Yan's flames would never be extinguished before the target was burned to ashes. Under such circumstances, although the Beast Emperor's regenerative ability had saved its life and prevented it from dying, it had also made it endure the most terrifying flames in the world. It had experienced the pain of being burned by the flames over and over again. In the end, it was worse than death. Caw 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 caw. The Beast Emperor continued to roar in pain as it tossed and turned in the sky. Its huge body was repeatedly being burned and healed. The pain during this period was truly unbearable, and it was in so much pain that it wished it was dead. Beast Emperor 666 could only roar at the sky as he dived into the ocean. The moment the Beast Emperor rushed into the ocean, a clear sound like a flame being extinguished by water could be heard. However, the flames on Beast Emperor 660's body were not extinguished by the endless seawater. Instead, it burned the surrounding seawater, causing dense steam to fill the sky. Caw 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 caw. Unable to extinguish the flames on its body, the Beast Emperor could only howl in pain. Everywhere it went, the seawater would evaporate in an instant, causing a large amount of water vapor to rise from the sea and cover the entire space. It must be very painful, right? Noah looked down at the Beast Emperor, who was desperately rolling in the sea and stirring up the entire sea into chaos. There was no trace of pity in his deep, dark eyes. Then I'll release you immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, Noah's figure immediately swooped down and turned into a bullet that was shot out of the barrel. He swept across the space, bringing with him a true red airwave and resplendent starlight. Like a meteor falling from the sky, he violently rushed in front of the Beast Emperor 666. Clang! A dazzling white light suddenly blossomed from one of Noah's hands. As if he had caught the light, Noah raised his hand and gently placed it on the Beast Emperor 660's body. 1. The dazzling white light immediately surged towards Beast Emperor 660's body like a tide, covering Beast Emperor 666 along with the flames that were burning unceasingly. In the next second, the Beast Emperor 660's body suddenly trembled, and its roaring stopped abruptly. White lines spread out from his body, slicing the huge alien body into cubes of equal size. When such an explosion resounded, the Beast Emperor's body, which had stirred up a large amount of water vapor in the sea, exploded, turning into an extremely uniform square. On the square, the flames of the black flames suddenly expanded, burning the square into ashes one by one, leaving no trace behind. The entire place suddenly became silent, leaving only the sound of the sea rolling up and down. An indescribable silence pervaded the air. Did it succeed? No one knew who asked this question, but no one answered. Everyone opened their eyes wide and stared at the position where the Beast Emperor 666 had been a second ago, trying to find a trace of clues. On the other hand, Asashel, Sax, Michael, Wally, Zamanli's family, Sidi's family, Klon Kovac, and the others were closely staring at Noah, who was floating on the surface of the sea. Their expressions didn't relax at all. This was because the Beast Emperor 660's wild aura, which seemed to be able to shake the souls of the Asura gods, had not completely disappeared in this world. What did that prove? It proved that the Beast Emperor 666 was not dead. Even Asher and the others could clearly feel the Beast Emperor 660's wild aura. Naturally, Noah, with his superb sensing ability, could feel it. At that moment, Noah frowned tightly, closed his eyes, and fully unfolded his sensing ability to cover the surrounding area. Like a radar, he carried out a carpet search. The surrounding atmosphere was constantly pervaded by a deathly silence, bringing an indescribable sense of heaviness to the air. The Asuras, gods, and Buddhas from the various mythological forces subconsciously suppressed their breathing, not daring to even breathe loudly. It was not until a certain moment that Noah suddenly opened his eyes, turned his head, and looked in a direction. Crack! Almost at the same time, the space where Noah's gaze was fixed on suddenly cracked, and a crack appeared. Piak piak piak. As if it had caused a chain reaction, the space kept cracking and even distorting. It broke like glass, and a void of darkness was imprinted in Noah's eyes. Then Noah saw it. In the space crack that looked like broken glass, a human figure emitting a dazzling brilliance floated out. Ah! A hair-raising roar suddenly sounded from the mouth of the human figure emitting brilliance. The voice was filled with madness, violence, and ferocity, causing everyone to show a frightened expression. What is that? Everyone couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Noah's brows furrowed again. He felt the Beast Emperor 660's wild aura from the other party, as well as the terrifying energy fluctuation that was almost identical to the Beast Emperor 660's. He asked Drake, "Drake, is that 666? This aura, this power, if you say it's not 666, even I won't believe it," Drake said in a deep voice. Looks like the Beast Emperor spat out its core before it was destroyed by Li Yan's flames and magic power, and managed to escape. Core. Noah's gaze turned directly to the human figure emitting brilliance. That 660's core? It even spat out its core and abandoned its original body. It seems that the Beast Emperor has been forced into a dead end by you, Drake said. Next is 660's desperate counterattack. You have to be careful. The moment Drake finished speaking, several pairs of wings suddenly spread out from the back of the Beast Emperor's 660's core. Those wings were the wings of birds, dragons, and even bats. There were almost all kinds of wings, fully demonstrating 660's deformity. Afterwards, the core suddenly flapped the wings on its back and charged towards Noah in a frenzied manner with a ruthless aura. Seeing this, Noah narrowed his eyes. The red aura around him and the resplendent starlight also swelled. The magic power in his body circulated and turned into divine power that flowed rapidly. In the next moment, thick chains of light suddenly condensed in the space around Noah without any warning. They shot out from the ripples of space and quickly wound around him. The Beast Emperor's core had just arrived in front of Noah, but before it could attack, the chains of light swept over and wound around its body, binding its limbs and body. It hung in front of Noah. The Beast Emperor 660's core suddenly struggled madly and roared at Noah. Its violent, ferocious, and crazy appearance did not look like a creature at all. Looking at the 666 core, Noah was silent for a moment. Then he spoke calmly. "Perhaps you shouldn't even exist in this world." After saying that, Noah extended a finger and pointed at the 666 core's chest. "Activate Virtual Star Tai Sui. Let the universe revolve." Simulating another cosmology, a burst of bright starlight suddenly bloomed from 660's core and covered its entire body. The core of the Beast Emperor 666 seemed to have sensed something, and it let out a crazy roar like a dying beast. Under such circumstances, the resplendent starlight completely engulfed 660's core. With a twist, it turned into a ball of dazzling light and fell into Noah's hand. This scene was not unfamiliar to the Asuras and Buddhas of the various mythological forces. It was exactly the same as when Hades, the god of the underworld, was sealed in Greek mythology. Looking at Noah, who was hovering above the surface of the sea, holding a ball of dazzling light in his hand. The Azuras exchanged glances with each other, their faces flushed red. Oh, 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 oh. Not long after, a burst of loud cheers resounded, and it didn't subside for a long time. Chapter 1968. The war was over. After Lesavim was killed, Euclid was captured, the evil dragons were annihilated, and the Holy Grail was retrieved. Now, the disaster squad had suffered a great loss. They no longer had the strength to resist the various mythical forces. In other words, the disaster group was already dead in name only. However, the main gods of the mythical forces did not want to let the disaster group go so easily. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. As a group that gathered the terrorists of every mythical force, if they continued to allow this group of terrorists to exist, even if there would not be a large-scale war, it would definitely cause all kinds of trouble. Therefore, in order to get things done once and for all, the main gods of the mythical forces expressed that they must take advantage of this opportunity to uproot the disaster group. Fortunately, as the only trusted aide of Lesavim, Euclid had been arrested. In the case of Lesavim's death, Euclid no longer had any hope for the disaster group. Coupled with the fact that even the 666 beast on the same level as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God was sealed by Noah alone, Euclid had completely given up on continuing to resist all the mythical forces. And so, with Euclid's help, the group successfully found the alternate dimension of the disaster's base camp, which was constantly changing its coordinates. In one fell swoop, they broke into the alternate dimension and wiped out the rest of the disaster's members. At this point, the disaster group was completely disbanded, and all the terrorists were brought to justice. Without the threat of terrorists, and with the major mythical forces now reaching a peace agreement, the world had truly ushered in peace. Therefore, on this day, Asashel was undoubtedly the happiest. After that, the main gods of the various mythological forces gathered again and held a short meeting. An important issue in the meeting was the seal of the 666 Beast Emperor. Unlike Hades, who was sealed forever in the underworld by Noah, the 666 Beast Emperor was sealed in the fictional world by Noah using the illusory star Tisway, waiting to be dealt with. The effect of this simulated star atlas, another cosmology, was that it could ignore the difference in strength and seal natural gods and elves of stars in the fictional world, and could only exert the effect of having the spiritual capacity of other objects. In the world of Demon High School, there was no such thing as soul points, so the effect of having soul points was completely useless. Beast Emperor 666 was not a natural-born deity, nor was he a star spirit. Naturally, he could not ignore the difference in strength and seal him away. Logically speaking, the simulated star map, another cosmology, named Illusory Star Tisway, should not be useful to 666. However, don't forget that this another cosmology can be used to create fictional worlds as cages. Back in the box, when faced with the million gods who came to seize the sovereignty of the sun, Noah first sealed up the most powerful gods, then personally threw the Azuras, gods, and Buddhas, whose spiritual attributes had been reduced by half, into that imaginary world. Even the strongest species could not break through the fictional world created by the simulated star atlas, another cosmology, let alone those Azura gods and Buddhas. Therefore, even if the illusory star Tisway could not have any effect on 666, Noah could still use it to create a fictional world as a cage to imprison the Beast Emperor. With the cage created by the another cosmology, there were only two ways for the Beast Emperor 666 to get out of it. One was to rely on his own brute force to break free. However, the so-called another cosmology was above the 3-digit power of the box and was equivalent to a 2-digit power. If the Beast Emperor wanted to rely on brute force to break free, it would only be possible if the power far exceeded the gift itself, which was more than a 2-digit power and reached the 1-digit power level. However, the Beast Emperor 666 only had its core left. Even if it still retained a 3-digit power level, it was impossible to reach the 1-digit power equivalent to a part of the law. Therefore, this method was equivalent to not having any. The second was to rely on others to open the fictional world. If one wanted to open the fictional world, there were also two ways. The first was as mentioned above, and a person with a single-digit power level could forcefully pry it open. The second was to use an equivalent but mutually restraining another cosmology, such as Avesta, which could offset the power of another cosmology, to release the Beast Emperor 666 from it. In this world where even the Crimson Dragon Emperor, the Infinite Dragon God, and the Silent Revelation Beast Emperor only had 3-digit power, it was impossible for a single-digit power to appear. On the same level as another cosmology, it was also impossible for a method above the 3-digit power level to exist. Therefore, these two methods were almost impossible to achieve in this world. In this way, unless the person who held the illusory star Taisway opened the fictional world himself, the Beast Emperor 666 would never be able to come out. In this way, there was no need to worry about the Beast Emperor 666 escaping at all. Noah could completely throw it into the sea and continue to sleep for the rest of its life. However, the main gods of the mythical organizations were not at ease. Even Athaziel, Syzax, and Michael were not at ease, so they held a meeting on how to deal with the Beast Emperor 666. In the end, after some discussion, all the main gods decided to hand the Beast Emperor 666 over to Michael and seal it in the heavens. After all, the only one who had ever confirmed the existence of 666 was the God of the Bible. Sealing 666 in the heavens could be considered as ending the wish of the God of the Bible, who had died on the battlefield because of the seal. After the meeting, Noah also did 3 things. First, he borrowed the Holy Grail and used the power of the Holy Grail to restore the broken arm of Clon Kuvok. Second, he brought the Holy Grail to Gasper and let Gasper fuse the Holy Grail back into Valerie's body, awakening this mixed-blood vampire who had been innocent from the beginning to the end. Third, he accepted Shiva's challenge and had a duel with the god of destruction in the alternate space. No one followed him to that duel. Only Orpheus, Lilith, Aster, and Athena witnessed the entire duel. When Noah and Shiva came out of the alternate space, Shiva made a public announcement. "I'm no match for the God Slayer. He has the qualifications to replace me and become the second in the top 10 in the world." This result was not out of anyone's expectations. Because as long as he had the power of another cosmology, Noah would definitely not lose to existences other than humans. As for humans, how many could win against Noah, who used Tyrannosaurus, who was between 3 and 4 digits, and who was on the same level as Orpheus and Lilith? No one. Under such circumstances, Noah was truly invincible. In addition, Orpheus and Lilith had both become Noah's contracted servants. In the end, Noah replaced Orpheus' position and became the first in the rankings. As for Orpheus and Lilith, they were both ranked second. The storm gradually subsided, and the world ushered in peace. After that, Noah lived a peaceful school life for a period of time. While living with Orpheus, Lilith, Austin, and Athena, he continued to train the Jumanli's family. That was because Leah's was finally ready to make her debut and began to stand out in the ranking game. And Leah's first opponent was actually Saratog, who had met Noah once and even fought once. Soon, the day of the competition arrived. On this day, in the training space of the Jumanli family, Noah looked at the group of students in front of him and faintly smiled. "Looks like you are very nervous." Everyone, including Leah's, had a trace of nervousness on their faces. The timid Gasper was even about to cry. "All right, since there is still some time, you should quickly adjust. We will be leaving for the underworld soon." Noah looked around at everyone. "Let me see. Thank you for your growth during this time." "Teacher." Everyone agreed in a loud and clear voice. Chapter 1969. The ranking game between Jumanli's kin and Baal's kin was something worth paying attention to in the underworld. It wasn't because they were the next leaders of the famous Jumanli and Baal families, but because the Jumanli and Baal families were very active in the war against the Disaster Syndicate. In the final battle against the Disaster Syndicate, Jiminori's kin was selected as one of the few elites to enter the alternate dimension to deal with the legendary level Evil Dragon. They even personally killed a Dragon King-level evil dragon. This news had already spread throughout the underworld. Baal's kin had also performed outstandingly against the evil dragon army. Saraoj's fists had crushed countless mass-produced evil dragons. Therefore, although both of them were new-generation demons, they were much stronger than many demons who had participated in the ranking game for a long time in terms of strength alone. The leaders of the demon realm all agreed that both Leith and Saraoj would rise to the top of the rankings in a short time once they debuted. Because of this, the ranking game between the Jemengli family and the Baal family was quite interesting. Under such circumstances, both sides chose a very special place for their ranking games. An island floating in the air. It was a floating city located in the territory of Grand Duke Agars. There was only one island in the entire underworld. It was said that it was a city that had existed since the era of the old Demon King. Even in the underworld, it was a famous tourist attraction that was rarely seen. It even monopolized the economic circulation of the surrounding area and was often chosen as the venue for ranked games. One of the reasons why this city was chosen as the ranking game venue for the Jemengli and Baal families was because it was very famous. As for the second reason, it was because the Grand Duke's family was a neutral faction. As mentioned before, the current Demon King wasn't one of the 4 legendary Demon Kings, nor was it a hereditary Demon King family. Instead, it was a powerful and capable Demon King chosen from among the demons to assume the role. To the ancient demons who valued bloodlines, the Baal royal family's political authority was even higher than that of the Demon King. Because of this, the upper echelons of the demon world were basically divided into the Demon King faction that valued reform and the King faction that valued tradition. The two sides had always had various conflicts in various political decisions. As a result, the Demon King faction and the Great King faction had been arguing over the location of the ranking game. The demons of the Demon King faction hoped that this ranking game could be held in the Gimli domain. After all, Demon King Lucifer was a member of the Gimli family. The competition for the next Gimli family head would naturally be held in the Gimli domain. However, the demons of the King faction also strongly requested that this ranking game be held in Baal Hill. Isn't that also the debut competition for the next head of the Bar family? In the end, the two sides continued to argue and were unable to decide on the venue for the competition. In the end, Duke Agars, who had remained neutral all this while and was in charge of mediating between the Demon King and the King, stood out and set the venue of the match at the floating city of the neutral Agars domain. Only then did the dispute come to an end. There were 3 ways to enter the city. The first method was to use a teleportation array to teleport. However, because this city was both an important place and a world heritage, it was naturally impossible to enter and leave so casually. Usually, there was a barrier to intercept and transfer means, and it was only provided to VIPs during important festivals. The second method was to take an aerial vehicle such as an airship. Under normal circumstances, this was the proper way to enter the city. Most demons used this method to enter the city. The third method was to use the cable car extended from the city and take the cable car to enter the city. This was provided for the residents near the territory to use. Noah and the Gimli family used the first method. As VIPs and contestants, they used a special teleportation array to directly jump into the city and enter the competition venue. In front of a corridor inside the competition venue, Noah and the Gimli family stopped in their tracks. Noah turned his head and looked at the Jemenglis family. Next, you will go directly to the special passage for the contestants, and I will go directly to the VIP room to watch the whole process of the competition. A VIP room? Lasvias said thoughtfully. That seems to be a special VIP seat that only the Demon King, Grand Duke, and the VIPs of various mythical organizations can go to, right? Yes. Noah nodded. This time, apart from the demons, the angels, fallen angels, and the main gods of various mythical organizations will all come to watch the competition. This has never happened before. In other words, our competition will not only be watched by the people of the demon realm, but also by all the mythical organizations in the world? Irina's pretty face tensed up. I feel like I'm getting more and more nervous. Yes. Genova's expression was no different from before, but one could faintly see that her gaze was a bit erratic. Even the angels are coming to watch the competition. If we embarrass ourselves, we will definitely be laughed at by our former colleagues, right? I'm starting to get nervous too, Isha said nervously. I hope I won't drag everyone down. Don't worry, Senior Isha, Kitten comforted her. Senior Isha is already very outstanding. She won't drag everyone down. You don't have to worry about dragging everyone down, but our opponent is Lord Saratog of the Ball Royal family. He's the #1 demon of the new generation. Laybell sighed. I feel like it'll be a tough battle. It'll definitely be tough, but we've already defeated an evil dragon of the Dragon King level. It won't be a problem. Yuta tried to cheer everyone up. Everyone, don't give up so easily. Yuta's right. Leah's nodded heavily. No matter what kind of opponent we face, we can't give up so easily. This is our debut competition, so we must fight beautifully. Yes, Junai said with a smile, cupping one side of his face. We can't embarrass the president. I'll do my best too. Gasper raised his hand weakly, but his eyes were resolute. I've already promised Valerie that I'll win, so I definitely can't lose. After hearing those words, the Jumanli's subordinates all revealed unswerving determination, and their eyes began to burn with fighting spirit. Very good, Noah said with satisfaction. Then let me look forward to seeing your performance. With that, Noah's expression softened. He stepped forward, patted Isha and Kitten's heads, and spoke softly. I hope I can see your victory before I leave. Hearing this, the eyes of the Zeeming family members trembled slightly. Then, their gazes became even more resolute. After parting with the Jimmins, Noah went straight to the VIP room. Under the respectful attitude of the 2 demon guards at the door, he walked into the extremely luxurious room. Oh! Azazel, who was chatting with Zazax, was the first to notice Noah, and revealed a typical smirk. He's here, he's here. Hearing Azazel's words, everyone's eyes turned to Noah, and they all stood up subconsciously to greet Noah. Obviously, although Noah was alone, none of the famous Azuras here dared to look down on him. After all, although the person in front of them was just a human, he was recognized as the world's #1 and was absolutely invincible. Now, the group of Azuras who had already understood how terrifying Noah was, naturally did not dare to slight him, and all of them were polite to him. Noah also did not embarrass these Azuras, and responded to them one by one. Then he came to Azazel and Zazax and sat down. In front of everyone, a projection screen was unfolding. On it, a Roman Colosseum was projected. Around the arena, the ring-shaped auditorium was almost full of people, and it was even more lively than the great demonic battle exhibition that Noah had participated in. In the arena, the Jimmins and Bale's families had already arrived, and everyone cheered. Laya's led her family, and there was no longer any nervousness on her face. Instead, there was the same elegance and confidence as before. Saryog also led his family, and looked at the Jimmins with a relaxed smile on his face, exuding a domineering aura. Under such circumstances, the competition began. Chapter 1970. The game between the Daemonli's kin and the Bale's kin was played by rolling dice. The rules were as follows. Each side had a dice. Before the start of each game, both sides had to roll the dice to determine the total number. Based on this number, both sides could send out their kin with the same value as the demon's chess piece. This so-called value evaluation was to calculate the pawn as 1, and the rest of the chess pieces were determined according to their value. Queen was equivalent to 9, pawn, so it was calculated as 9. Rook was equivalent to 5, pawn, so it was calculated as 5. Knight and bishop were equivalent to 3, pawn, so they were counted as 3. Under this calculation, both sides would roll the dice, and finally send out their kin with the same value as the number of dice rolled. For example, if both Laius and Saraj rolled a 4, then the total number was 8, and both sides could only send out chess pieces with the same number. Using 8 as an example, he would be able to send out a rook, a knight, or a bishop. Of course, if they rolled an 8, then they could send out 8 pawns. As long as the value of the chess piece was equal to the number of dice rolled, then they could play. In other words, if they wanted to send out a queen, then the number they rolled must be 9 or above. If they wanted to send out a rook, then the number they rolled must be 5 or above. If they wanted to send out a knight and a bishop, then the number they rolled must be 3 or above. If they wanted to send out a pawn, then they had to roll the number of the chess piece they used. For example, both Aisha and Irina used 4 pawns to be reincarnated, so they had to roll a number of 4 or above before they could be sent out. As for the king, if they wanted to play, then they had to roll a number that the officials estimated based on the comprehensive evaluation of both sides. According to the estimation of the higher-ups, as the number 1 demon of the new generation and having reached the level of the highest demon, Saroj's value was 12, while Leah's value was 9. As long as the highest value was 12, Saroj would be able to go on stage, while Lias only needed to roll a 9 to be able to go on stage. However, in all ranking games, there was one rule that was universal. That was, once the king was defeated, the game would be over, and the defeated party would be defeated. Under such circumstances, both sides continued to play. The defeated chess piece could not be sent out again until the king was defeated. Only then would the game be considered over. Oh, 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 oh. Amidst the cheers of the audience, the Gemengli family and the Ball family began their match. Moreover, the battle situation was very intense. Only half an hour had passed since the start of the competition, and there had already been 3 matches. In the first match, both sides threw a total of 3 and sent out a knight. In this match, Lias's spawn was Yudu. Yudu did not disappoint Noah. He displayed the results of his special training. As soon as he appeared, he immediately took out the demon Empyrean sword and displayed his extraordinary strength. He easily defeated Bari's subordinate, knight, and easily won the battle. In the second match, both sides threw a total of 10, which greatly increased the number of family members they could send out. In the end, Lias sent out the 2 rooks, Kitten and Los Vallas, while Saroj sent out a rook and a knight. This match was not as predictable as the previous one, and both sides clashed fiercely. In the end, the kitten made the sacrifice with a resolute expression and firmly held back the opponent's rook and knight. This allowed Latvias to launch a large-scale magic attack in all directions. Other than Latvias, everyone else was forced to leave the battlefield. In the third match, both sides threw a total of 8. In this match, Lias sent out Rebel, who was a bishop, and Irina, who was a pawn. They were worth a total of 7, and if they threw a total of 8, they could definitely fight. Although Isha and Irina would have a total of 8, Isha had no combat power and naturally did not fight. She stayed in the contestants' area and healed and recovered those who had fought, ensuring that everyone could fight in their best condition in every match. As for Saroj, he sent out a rook and a bishop. And so, the match ended there. In the VIP room, Noah could clearly see that Rebel and Irina were having a hard time dealing with the attacks of Saroj's rook and bishop. However, the two seemed to have taken the wrong medicine and fought with all their might. They're fighting a little too hard, aren't they? Asashel said in astonishment. Could it be that they've suffered some kind of shock? They're fighting a little too hard. Sazax frowned slightly and said as if he could not bear to see it. In the last match, Kitten and Los Vallas were also fighting with all their might. Kitten even took the initiative to sacrifice herself, and Los Vallas did not hold back at all as he bombarded Kitten as well. Even if it's normal to abandon a piece in a match, they're fighting a little too hard. Now that I think about it, Kiba Yudo was also fighting with his life on the line. The moment he appeared, he used his full strength. He didn't even hesitate to use a weapon like the Demon Empyrean sword, which consumes a lot of energy. Asashel was puzzled. What's going on? Noah was silent for a while before calmly speaking. They just want to win for themselves and for me. For you. Sazax and Asashel both looked at Noah with startled expressions. Noah's eyes never left the screen as he said calmly. After the match, I plan to leave for a while. What? Both Sazax and Asashel exclaimed, attracting the attention of the people around them. Only then did the two react and quickly smiled apologetically. What's going on? Syzax could not help but ask. Isn't this a little too sudden? Come on, you're now the world suppression force. Although it's embarrassing, world peace basically depends on you alone. Asashel smiled bitterly. If you leave, those mythical organizations that finally compromised will definitely be restless again. Don't worry, even if I don't appear, no one will think that I'm dead. They won't joke about the survival of their mythical organizations before I die. Noah's eyes never left the screen as he said this. So, what you're worried about won't happen. You can continue to work hard for world peace. Syzax and Asashel thought about it carefully and felt that it made sense. Then where are you going? Syzax asked. Why do you suddenly want to leave? I have my own things to do. Noah smiled slightly. But are you worried that something will happen to me? You better be so easy to get into trouble. Asashel rolled his eyes. Even the infinite dragon god has become your servant, and you've sealed the beast emperor. I really can't think of anyone who can cause you to get into trouble. Then isn't it settled? Noah shrugged. So, accompany me to the end of this match. Both Syzax and Asashel nodded solemnly. The three of them watched the entire process of the match with extremely serious expressions. During this time, the three of them chatted a lot, causing a faint melancholy to fill the air. In the end, the Zamanli's kin successfully defeated the Baal's kin and won. Looking at the Zamanli's kin who were laughing and crying at the same time, Noah's gaze became gentle. Well done, my students. This way, Noah could leave without any regrets. As for Noah's impending departure, Syzax and Asashel only told a very limited number of people, and the rest did not know anything. That night, the four great demon kings, Syzax, Achuka, Seraph, and Felubium, brought the Zamanli's kin and Sidi's kin to hold a banquet under Asashel's organization. At the banquet, Noah, as the main character, was constantly forced to drink by a group of people, but he was always laughing and fooling around with the crowd for the entire night. It was said that after getting drunk, Aisha and Kittens secretly kissed Noah, and even Label. It was said that Seraph, who was also drunk, seemed to want to have a passionate night with Noah, but was finally stopped by Leah's and Song. It was said that even Vala's team came later, and were dragged by Asashel to drink a lot of wine. It was said that the next day, after everyone was drunk, only Noah walked out of the banquet alone and left the underworld. However, to be more precise, it should be said that he left this world. Chapter 1971. Warm sunlight slowly sprinkled down from the sky, illuminating a small but elegantly designed atrium, illuminating the green lawn. In the lawn, there were trees, flowers, water, and round tables and stone chairs made of marble. It was like a theme park somewhere. And in this elegant atrium, a young girl stood facing the wind. Her light golden hair that reached her waist fluttered in the wind as if it was emitting a radiance. Her tight blue and white dress swayed back and forth in the wind. The young girl stood in the wind with her eyes closed. She slowly opened her hands, as if there was something extremely precious in front of her, and held it in the palm of her hand. Clang! At this moment, a soft white light bloomed from the young girl's slender hands as if she was holding something. That white light was neither strong nor dazzling. It could only be considered bright, and it dyed the surrounding area with a pure white color. Such a soft and gorgeous white light, if it was seen by those who loved beauty, they would definitely be unable to help but approach it. Like a young girl, they would reach out their hands and gently hold that ball of light, right? However, generally speaking, the more beautiful something was, the more hidden behind it were sharp thorns that others could not profane. For example, the soft and gorgeous ball of light in the young girl's hand. Buzz. At a certain moment, the soft white light that bloomed in the young girl's hand suddenly trembled, as if it was stimulated by something, and became chaotic. The young girl's beautiful face suddenly became a little tense, and a drop of sweat dripped down her delicate cheeks, down her thin chin, and dripped to the ground. Obviously, the young girl was a little strained. In order to control the power in her hand, the young girl used almost all of her mind. But that only slightly delayed the time when she lost control. Not long after, the gorgeous ball of light in the young girl's hands suddenly expanded, from the size of a crystal ball, it instantly surged and covered the area around the young girl. Under the shroud of the white light, the ground began to tremble, and even the atmosphere began to emit a sorrowful cry, as if it had encountered a disaster. Just when the young girl finally could not control the power in her hand and was about to let that terrifying power go out of control, a figure suddenly appeared beside her. Kacha! With a soft sound, a wristband was clasped around the girl's wrist by a figure that suddenly appeared. Suddenly, the dazzling white light trembled and dissipated like a firefly. It turned into specks of starlight and disappeared into the world. "All right, that's enough," the person said to the young girl with an unquestionable tone. "Let's stop here for today. We can't continue like this." Hearing this, the girl let out a long breath and slowly opened her eyes. It was a pair of eyes that were deeper in color than the girl's hair. They shone like gems. However, that pair of beautiful eyes were filled with depression at this very moment. "Did I fail again?" The young girl couldn't help but mutter, her tone filled with dejection. "I thought I would be able to do it today." Compared to the beginning, he has indeed improved a lot. He can already control this power to a certain extent. The person sighed. "It's a pity that it hasn't been long since you obtained this power, and this power is so strong. To be able to control it to this extent in such a short period of time is already very rare." Of course, the young girl knew. It was because she was the one who had this power. Compared to others, the young girl knew how strong this power was. However, it was precisely because it was powerful that it was not easy to completely control this power. In this city that was known as the center of the world, the young girl was already at the peak of all the people with power. However, she could only control this power to a certain extent. It was enough to see how strong this power was. Of course, in reality, how strong this power was also different from person to person. After all, no matter how strong it was only magic. The amount of power it could unleash was completely dependent on the magic power of the user. Until now, the young girl still couldn't completely control this powerful magic. Firstly, it was the type that was extremely difficult to control. Secondly, the young girl's spiritual energy that could be converted into magic power was extremely powerful. This allowed the power of this magic to be fully unleashed, making it even more difficult to control. However, with this magic, the young girl's power would increase by several levels. Thus, the young girl slightly shifted her gaze and looked at her companion. To put it bluntly, the young girl's appearance could already be considered as extremely beautiful. Even compared to the perfect goddesses from the heavens, she definitely wouldn't lose out in the slightest. However, the young girl's companion also had an extremely beautiful appearance. Soft emerald long hair and eyes of the same color. Her slender figure gave people the impression of being graceful, but also had a kind of delicate beauty. Her white skin seemed to be crystal clear, and her whole body exuded a clever and heroic temperament. In addition to her beautiful appearance, the other party also had a noble bloodline. That pair of long ears told everyone that this beautiful person was an elf. Moreover, she was a royal among the elves. Looking at this beauty who was respected and looked forward to even among the elves, the young girl called out softly, "Riveria, don't even think about it." Riveria seemed to know what the young girl was planning to do and immediately blocked her with a sentence. "Today's practice will end here. You're not allowed to continue practicing. You can only practice one morning a day. This is what we agreed on. Do you want to go back on your words? AIC? But," AIC said somewhat dejectedly, "I want to practice this crushing magic well." "I know. I also want to see you practice it well. Otherwise, who knows when you will force yourself to use it against your enemies in the underground city. At that time, if this magic goes out of control, it will be a problem for your life." Riveria shook her head. "But AIC, you have to know that although this magic is powerful, it also consumes a frightening amount of spiritual energy. If you force yourself to continue practicing it, it's one thing for your spiritual energy to be exhausted, but I'm afraid that you will suffer a spiritual backlash. At that time, even I won't be able to save you. I'm doing this for your own good." Saying such a sentence, Riveria once again spoke in an unquestionable tone. No matter what, I'll only allow you to practice one morning a day. If you want to continue practicing, you have to wait until tomorrow. Today, you're not allowed to practice. AIC immediately lowered her head in disappointment. Seeing AIC like this, Riveria didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm starting to regret letting you learn from that person, Riveria sighed and said. If I knew that he would teach you such a dangerous and troublesome magic spell, I would have stopped you. But there's a higher possibility that you wouldn't listen even if I stopped you. AIC immediately shut her mouth and didn't dare to say another word. Seeing AIC lowering her head like a child who had done something wrong and was worried about being scolded, Riveria felt angry and amused at the same time. All right, I'm just telling you not to practice it for the time being. It's not like I'm not allowing you to practice it. For safety's sake, you can continue practicing crush magic tomorrow, Riveria said in annoyance. You can use the afternoon to practice your swordsmanship. You can even go to the underground city. At most, I won't stop you, okay? AIC perked up her spirits. But, Riveria added in a serious tone, you're not allowed to go too deep. You have to return before the sky turns dark. Not long later, our clan tribe will be going to the deeper regions. At this crucial time, you can't be injured, understand? AIC immediately nodded. Riveria was satisfied and turned around. Just as she was about to leave, a voice came from behind. Thank you, Riveria. Hearing this, Riveria's footsteps paused for a moment before she recovered and a gentle smile hung on her face. To Riveria, AIC was like her own daughter. Otherwise, she wouldn't accompany her to practice magic every day. Although AIC had always been rather taciturn, Riveria knew that this young girl's heart was far warmer than her cold appearance. What's more, compared to the past, AIC had changed a little recently. This is all thanks to that man. What an incredible man, Noah Doria. Chapter 1972. The Labyrinth City, Olalai. It was famous for being built on top of the underground city. It was a city surrounded by a strong city wall. The exterior of the city wall was an almost endless stretch of flat land. Inside the city wall, there were all kinds of buildings. In the center of the city, there was a huge tower that almost reached the sky. It was a skyscraper that was built on top of the lid of the underground city and connected to the entrance of the underground city, the Tower of Babel. Looking down from above, one could clearly see that within the labyrinth city of Orally, the 8 main streets were all connected to the tower, causing the central plaza surrounding the tower to appear as though it was filled with a sea of people. If it were not for the fact that it was noon and most of the adventurers had entered the underground city and had not yet returned, the central square would have been completely filled with adventurers. Even now, the entire city was still extremely noisy. Fully armed adventurers and supporters carrying large backpacks were coming and going. Some entered the Tower of Babel and went to the underground city, while others came out of the underground city. People were coming and going, and it was very lively. However, this lively atmosphere was disrupted at some point. On one of the streets that led to the central square where the Tower of Babel was located, there was a sudden commotion. There was only one reason for this commotion. That was a beautiful girl with light golden hair that reached her waist. She was wearing a blue and white skin-tight dress and a thin sword at her waist. She was walking slowly on the street. The newcomer was naturally Ace, who was allowed to enter the underground city by Riveria. Of course, even without Riveria's permission, Ace would go to the underground city almost every day when she could not practice crushing magic. Exploring the underground city's labyrinth could be said to have occupied A's entire life. That was because only by doing so, A's could become stronger. Seeing A's walking slowly from the other side of the street, the surrounding adventurers began to sigh. Is she here again? She comes to explore the underground city almost every day. Undoubtedly, she is a level 1 adventurer and LV6 level 1 adventurer. She even comes to explore the dungeon every day. No wonder she is known as the warrior concubine. If I become LV6 adventurer, then I don't want to suffer so much. I will definitely swagger around and let others serve me every day. That's why you can only play a small role and never become a big shot. What did you say? What are you doing? Do you want to fight? I'm LV2. What's so great about it? Amidst the commotion of the people around her, AIC walked forward while thinking about this for the umpteenth time. This city was still so lively. However, at the same time, AIC felt a sense of loneliness. Everyone around her was bustling with noise and excitement while she was the only one left. She felt like she was out of place, and this made her feel a little depressed. Although she appeared cold, AIC was not an arrogant person. On the contrary, just like what Riveria said, AIC was a girl who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Moreover, AIC's cold appearance was not intentional. It was just that this girl was not good at expressing her emotions, so she gave people a cold feeling. The gods gave AIC the title, Swordswoman. Adventurers also called AIC the warrior concubine. But in fact, AIC was just a very ordinary girl. She would be happy when she saw interesting things. She would be sad when she encountered sad things. She would like cute things. She would hate disgusting things. However, AIC rarely showed these on her face, making people feel that this girl was very cold and gorgeous. Of course, when others were laughing happily, AIC would also feel envious. It would be great if Tiona could come with us, AIC subconsciously blurted out. However, unlike AIC, who was obsessed with improving her strength, Tiona, the pair of Amazons, although they were LV5 adventurers, they would not go into the underground city for no reason. They knew how to enjoy life very well. Now, those two sisters were probably with Leafia and had run off somewhere to play. Thinking of this, AIC came to the front of the Tower of Babel. As soon as she came here, a bigger commotion than before broke out. AIC thought that the commotion was because of her arrival, but she soon noticed that the surrounding adventurers were talking about it. Look over there. That person? Isn't that the tyrant? Tyrant. Just like how AIC was given the title, Swordswoman, by the gods, this was also a title. However, this title had only appeared in Eulalie recently. It had spread at an unimaginable speed, and everyone knew about it. Because the owner of this title was undoubtedly the most famous person in the entire Maze City recently. Apollo's minions were defeated by him alone in the wargame and were driven out of Eulalie. The main god of Freya's minions had endless love for him, but was rejected. The only LV7 in the Maze City was once forced to retreat by him. The gods were all eyeing him covetously and were always thinking of poaching him into their minions. Moreover, he was an important benefactor who taught crushing magic to AIC and let AIC get what she wanted. So AIC was stunned for a moment, then raised her eyes and looked forward. The next second AIC saw it. In front of the entrance of the Tower of Babel, a figure was standing there. The Maze City, Eulalie. Noah looked at the vast square in front of him with people coming and going. Looking around the bustling city, a faint smile appeared on his young face. It hasn't changed at all, that was to be expected. It had only been a month. How could this bustling city, which had been developing since ancient times, have changed so much? However, for Noah, everything in front of him was somewhat nostalgic. There was no other reason. According to Noah's sense of time, he had been away from this world for nearly a year. He came back after nearly a year, and when he saw everything in front of him again, he naturally felt very nostalgic. Of course, this nostalgic feeling immediately disappeared in the next second, because an extremely scorching gaze was cast from the direction of the Tower of Babel and fell on Noah's body. Feeling the scorching gaze that seemed to want to swallow him whole, the smile on Noah's face slowly disappeared. He turned his head and looked at the top of the Tower of Babel. His pitch-black eyes were filled with a sharp light that was as cold as the edge of a blade. Under such circumstances, the scorching hot gaze trembled slightly. Immediately, it retreated as though it was afraid. Noah could not help but twitch his mouth and withdraw his gaze in boredom. He lifted his feet and immediately wanted to leave. At this time, a soft voice rang out. You're back. Hearing this voice, Noah stopped in his tracks and turned his head to look at the source of the voice. Over there, a young girl with a peerlessly beautiful appearance was staring at Noah with her gem-like eyes. There was not a single trace of emotion on her delicate face. Noah was stunned and said in surprise, "Why are you here? Why you here?" "Can't I?" AIC blinked. Although her expression did not change, she seemed to have suffered a blow. "Am I in your way?" "No." Noah hurriedly shook his head and waved his hand. "I thought it was that boring beauty who came to find trouble with me again." "Beauty?" AIC was stunned, and then she remembered something and understood. "It seems that you are going to the dungeon, right?" Noah looked at AIC, who was neatly dressed, and scratched his cheek. "So, I should be the one in your way?" Looking at Noah scratching his cheek, as if he was considering whether to leave or not, AIC hesitated for a while and then subconsciously spoke. "No, I am not going to the dungeon." After saying that, AIC lowered her head and felt a sense of guilt in her heart. This was definitely the first time AIC lied. However, she did not know why, but compared to going to the dungeon, AIC wanted to talk to the person in front of her more. Even if it was just for a while. Chapter 1973. In the end, AIC didn't enter the underground city. Instead, she sat down with Noah on a bench beside the fountain in the central square and actually started chatting. Noah asked AIC about the recent situation of Hastia's clan. However, AIC was basically clueless. That was because she had been hiding in the base camp of Loki's clan for the past month to train her crushing magic. She didn't have the spare energy to care about the situation outside. AIC then asked Noah about his gains in the underground city. Unfortunately, after Noah entered the underground city, he directly left this world not long after and only returned today. And as soon as he returned, he immediately left the underground city. What gains could he possibly have? Thus, Noah gave a perfunctory reply and easily avoided the question of the pure and kind AIC. At this moment, AIC was sizing up Noah. She tilted her head and asked in puzzlement, "What are you talking about? I feel like you're not the same as before." "Really?" Noah raised an eyebrow and asked curiously. "What's different about me?" "I can't put my finger on it." AIC raised her beautiful eyebrows and hesitated for a moment before speaking in a trembling voice. "You feel like you're much more noble than before?" After hearing AIC's words, Noah somewhat understood. Perhaps it was because he had obtained the third perpetual motion machine, Ling? Before he obtained the Ling, Noah was just a human. Even if he had great power and was essentially a fragment of the original world, the world allowed Noah to be born as a human. Noah would always be a human. And after obtaining the Ling, from a certain point of view, Noah could be considered to have improved. That was because the spirit level represented merit and inheritance. Dragons gave birth to dragons, rats gave birth to rats, and the sons of rats could dig holes. After obtaining the Ling, Noah's status as a human had also risen to the highest point, just like how a carp had become a divine dragon. In the eyes of others, it was natural that he was much more noble. In the past, didn't Letitia and Pess say that Noah had some changes after obtaining the Ling? It seemed that AIC had also noticed this change. He guessed that the beauty on the Tower of Babel had also noticed the change in Noah, so her gaze became more intense than before. With that thought in mind, Noah didn't hide it from AIC. "I've had some fortuitous encounters recently, so it's natural for me to change a little." Hearing this, AIC shifted her gaze to Noah. She stared straight at Noah and only spoke after a while. "You've become stronger again?" "Become stronger?" Noah laughed bitterly. "I don't know if it counts." Compared to before he left this world, Noah had indeed changed a lot. At that time, Noah's authority was still on him. If he fully unleashed it, it would be more than enough to reach Hakeda's 3 digits. After all, at the time, Noah was already able to use 2 clones of authority at the same time and could unleash them for a short period of time. Now, if Noah unleashed his full power, it would be between 3 and 4 digits when he used the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Compared to before he left this world, It was much weaker. However, before he left this world, although Noah could use 2 clones of authority at the same time, reaching 3 digits, it was only temporary. The consumption and burden were huge. On one hand, he could reach 3 digits for a short period of time. On the other hand, he could reach 3 to 4 digits without any side effects. As for which side was better, he really didn't know how to calculate. There was only one thing that he was certain of. That was, although Noah had changed a lot, the impact on his strength was almost negligible. Because, with the power of Avesta and illusory star Taisway, as long as the opponent was not a human, he would not lose no matter what. And if the opponent was a human, with the power between 3 and 4 digits, it was enough to sweep through everything. At least, that was the case in the world of Demon Academy, and it was also the case in this world. Even if he explained this to AIC, with AIC's ability to understand, this natural girl's brain would probably short-circuit, right? Therefore, Noah shrugged and said so. I can only say that the change is huge. As for whether it is stronger or not, it depends on who the opponent is. Is that so? AIC nodded, not knowing if she understood or not. She touched the bracelet on her wrist. But I haven't been able to practice crush magic well. You haven't been able to practice it well? Noah laughed. That's normal. How long has it been since you got crush magic? Back then, in order to practice this magic well, I had to practice it deep in the mountains and forests for 4 whole years. For years? AIC was confused. Do you need that long? Well, my situation is because my own magic is too strong, causing the power of crush magic to be too strong. It is even more difficult to control, so it took me 4 years. Noah looked at AIC as if he could see through her soul and said so. As for you, although your spiritual force is very strong, it has not reached the level of my childhood. With your talent and hard work, coupled with the assistance of LV6 ability value, if it goes well, in a few months, you should be able to apply it more or less in combat. A few months? AIC couldn't help but ask. A few months is only enough to apply it in battle? You should be satisfied. Noah said in a bad mood. The person who taught crush magic to me has been using it for decades, and he hasn't fully controlled it yet. It's already a good result for you to be able to apply it in battle. After that, Noah stretched out his hand and gently stroked AIC's head. AIC was stunned for a moment. Don't worry, there is nothing wrong with pursuing power, but if you blindly pursue power, then there is no benefit at all. Noah smiled slightly. As long as you are down to earth, this magic will become your strength sooner or later. You are the swordswoman, the most talented adventurer in the whole Eulalia. Have some confidence in yourself. AIC looked at the smiling Noah in a daze, feeling the warm big hand on her head, and couldn't help but feel lost in her heart. AIC lost her parents when she was a child, joined the Rosai family, and became a member of the Rosai family. Since then, AIC had been fighting in the dungeons to become stronger. She didn't even have time for entertainment and relaxation. If it wasn't for Riveria, Tiona, and Tiona accompanying her, she wouldn't be cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Instead, she would be a walking corpse from head to toe. Under such circumstances, AIC couldn't remember how many years it had been since she was touched by someone so gently. The last time she was touched like this, it seemed to be before her parents passed away, right? Therefore, AIC couldn't help but be immersed in the feeling that she hadn't felt for a long time. For a moment, she kept looking at Noah and didn't look away. Being stared at by AIC like this, it was Noah who felt a little unnatural. Seeing that Noah's expression had become unnatural, AIC also reacted, and her beautiful face actually blushed slightly. The atmosphere between the two suddenly became a little ambiguous, causing Noah and AIC to turn their heads at the same time with an embarrassed look. But they didn't know that this kind of behavior was almost the same as a couple in love. At least, that was the case in the eyes of others. In the eyes of those with ulterior motives, bang! Accompanied by the sound of glass shattering, the wine glass was crushed by a slender jade hand. Scarlet liquid immediately dripped from the hand, and it was unknown whether it was red wine or blood. Freya stood in front of the wall-like glass window, looking down at Noah and AIC, who looked like a young and shy couple in love. Her chest heaved up and down violently. As the goddess of beauty, who wielded the power of love, how could Freya not understand why she had such a strong reaction? Because of jealousy. The man that she had given up everything to get was interacting with another girl like this. As long as it was a girl, she would more or less feel a little jealous. But Freya's jealousy was not just a little bit, it was surging like the ocean. Ah! Freya laughed self-deprecatingly. I never thought that one day I would be so jealous of a child from the lower realm. Freya said so with a rose-like smile, licking the red wine and blood in her hand little by little. Just a little, I want to play games with that child. Chapter 1974. Time passed by slowly. Unknowingly, dusk had arrived. Noah and AIC, who had been chatting by the fountain in the central plaza for the entire afternoon, finally noticed the time and stopped chatting. Alright, it's getting late. I should head back. Noah stood up, stretched his back, and said to AIC, who was beside him, I just came back from the underground city. I haven't gone back yet. I wonder how Hestia, Belle, and Lily are doing. I should head back too. AIC nodded and stood up as well. Riveria told me not to go back too late. We have to go on an expedition to the deeper regions soon. If I don't go back early, everyone in the tribe will be worried. An expedition? Noah nodded thoughtfully. I remember you guys went on an expedition before, but you guys turned back halfway, right? AIC nodded and confirmed Noah's statement. She even explained. She also explained, on the 51st floor, we encountered monsters that could dissolve weapons. Those monsters were very troublesome. If we continued to fight, everyone's weapons would dissolve, and we would be reduced to fighting without weapons. Our combat power would be greatly reduced, so Finn ordered us to retreat. Monsters that dissolve weapons? Noah raised an eyebrow. I've been to the 51st floor, but I didn't encounter such monsters. You've been to the 51st floor? AIC was a little startled and asked with uncertainty. Alone? Yes. Noah nodded. Alone. You're really strong. AIC's voice became a little softer as though she was stimulated. I want to be as strong as you too. You will be sooner or later. Noah smiled bitterly and patted AIC's head comfortingly. You're still young anyway. AIC seemed to be a little dissatisfied and muttered softly. Undoubtedly, you're not much older than me. AIC didn't reject Noah's head patting and seemed to be enjoying it. After chatting for an entire afternoon, the relationship between the two of them progressed at an incredible speed. In the beginning, Noah felt a little embarrassed to treat AIC this way. The first time he touched AIC's head, it could be said that he did it subconsciously. Later on, Noah gradually felt that AIC was like a cute little sister, making him feel closer and closer to her. At the same time, he also felt a little emotional. This young girl, except for the fact that she didn't seem like a girl when it came to pursuing power, was just an ordinary girl in all other aspects. AIC, who didn't know what Noah was thinking, answered his question. The 51st floor is very big. Some areas haven't even been mapped out in detail. If you went to places that were recorded on the map, you probably missed those monsters. Is that so? Noah suddenly understood. Well, it's not a bad thing anyway. Hearing this, AIC stole a glance at Noah. After hesitating for a while, she asked carefully, Do you want to come with us during the expedition? Me? Noah was stunned for a moment, and then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm a member of a different clan tribe from you, and the goal of the expedition is the unreached area, which is the floor that hasn't been conquered yet. If we can conquer a floor that no one has been to, it's undoubtedly pioneering. With such great benefits and glory, is it appropriate for me to share it with you? It's okay. AIC didn't have much hope at first, but seeing that Noah didn't directly refuse, she suddenly mustered up her courage. The last expedition was due to the consumption of weapons. This time, Loki and Finn have made a lot of preparations. They even invited the blacksmiths of Hephaestus's clan tribe to help us repair and forge weapons. Your clan tribe can also participate. Did Loki's spawn hire Hephaestus's spawn? Noah asked with a smile. Even so, it's very difficult for our clan tribe to participate in your expedition. Let's not talk about the fact that there are only 3 members in our clan tribe, and 2 of them are all LV, 1 low-level adventurers, and 1 of them is even a support. Let's talk about the matter of your overgod. Is it possible for him to cooperate with my overgod to conquer the unreached area? AIC was suddenly speechless. That's right. Let's not talk about other things. Just the grudge between Hasti and Loki was a threshold that couldn't be crossed. The 2 were like natural enemies. Even if it wasn't to the point of life and death, it was to the point of bitter hatred. How could such a big thing as an expedition to the dungeon and reclaiming the unreached area be possible? Moreover, the problem that Noah mentioned was also a problem. If Loki's clan really wanted to invite someone to explore the buried city with them, it would be a powerful clan like Freya's clan, not a small clan with only 3 members like Hastia's clan. I think your power is already sufficient. AIC was silent for a moment before she said this. If it were you, Loki would definitely consider it. After all, even though Loki hated Hestia, he had always been eyeing Noah and even thought highly of Noah. As the saying goes, love the house and its crow, hate the house and its crow. Even though Loki was not on good terms with Hestia, he still thought highly of Noah, who was a member of Hestia's clan. It was enough to show how much Loki valued Noah. If it was Noah, Loki might really consider it, right? At this moment, even Noah began to ponder. Although he was not like other adventurers who explored dungeons as their career, as a man who did not want to take risks. That was how the buried city attracted everyone's curiosity and adventurous spirit, attracting countless people to explore it. Unexplored areas. What could one encounter in such an unexplored area? As long as one thought about it, one would not be curious. Although Noah had already gotten rid of the impatience of a young brat, his own strength was outstanding, and no one had explored below the 58th floor of the buried city. Moreover, there were questions such as how monsters were born, how magic stones were produced, and why the buried city rejected divine power. Noah wanted to take a trip. Of course, at most, it was just a little. Thus, Noah said so. This matter is not that urgent. If you really want me to help, go back and discuss it with Loki and Finn. I think they should have more ideas. AIC nodded heavily. I will. Seeing how serious AIC was, Noah could not help but feel a little amused as he continued to stroke her head, making her blush slightly again. Noah had to admit that he really wanted to treat AIC as a cute little sister. After saying goodbye to AIC in the central square, Noah walked out of the square and walked in the direction of Hestia's clan. I wonder how everyone is doing. Recalling the members of the clan that he had not seen for almost a year, Noah's footsteps could not help but quicken a little. At the same time, the news of Noah's return from the buried city also spread like wildfire and was quickly learned by the major clans of Eulalia. The return of the tyrant, who once destroyed the entire clan of Apollo with his own strength and once forced the only LV-7 to retreat, suddenly attracted the attention of many people, including the Lord God of Hestia's clan. So, before Noah had time to return to the base camp of Hestia's clan, a commotion suddenly arose on the street in front of him. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! A petite figure rushed out from the other side of the street, shouting as she rushed. My Noah is back. I have to hurry to greet him. All of you get out of the way. Seeing the petite goddess rushing all the way, many people were startled and quickly moved aside. When they reacted, they were just about to scold her, but they suddenly showed a perverted expression. Because the petite goddess with an unusually full upper body followed the natural law of her plump upper body swaying up, down, left, and right desperately in the process of rushing all the way, which could make any man's eyes pop out. Noah was also almost scared. When he recovered, he quickly grabbed the goddess before she was about to rush past him. Hestia cried out in alarm and glared at him. What are you? Before she could finish her sentence, Hestia saw Noah with a speechless face. Chapter 1975. Noah? Noah? Hestia asked in an uncertain tone, as if she was trying to test the waters. Noah, who was speechless, couldn't help but burst into laughter when he saw how worried he was about recognizing the wrong person. I say, my deity, who are you running so fast to meet? Hearing Noah's voice, Hestia finally confirmed that she didn't see wrongly. Hestia's eyes suddenly lit up. Noah, it's really you. You're back. Under the gazes of all the people on the busy street, Hestia suddenly cheered and threw herself into Noah's arms. Ouch! In an instant, with such a sound like a sound effect, the petite but extremely voluptuous goddess threw herself on Noah, pressing her voluptuous upper body directly in front of Noah. This scene made the surrounding males widen their eyes and almost spit out the accumulated blood in their chests. The wonderful touch made Noah almost cry out. When he reacted, one of his hands had already clenched into a fist and fiercely hit Hestia's head. Bang! A merciless muffled sound rang out. What? The petite goddess with an extraordinary figure immediately squatted down with her hands covering her head. She complained to Noah with tears in her eyes. What are you doing? I want to ask you what you're doing. Noah's mouth twitched. Haven't you changed your bad habit of hugging me at the drop of a hat? What's wrong with hugging? Hestia shouted with tears in her eyes. You're my lovely wife. Can I hug you? No, Noah said without hesitation. Anyone can, but you can't. Ah. Hestia opened her eyes wide. Why? No reason. Noah couldn't help glancing at Hestia's voluptuous upper body. The corners of his eyes twitched, and he said rudely and unreasonably. You just can't. How could this happen? Hestia staggered as if she had been hit by a heavy blow. My Noah, you're actually starting to dislike me. Seeing Hestia's expression, Noah smiled bitterly. He had no choice. The way this young goddess expressed her feelings was too direct. In addition, her voluptuous figure made Noah's heart waver every time he was hugged by her. In order to avoid being killed by this cute girl, Noah could only force himself to be cruel. The surrounding males seemed to be able to understand Noah's thoughts, but they seemed to feel that it was a pity. For a while, they sighed repeatedly, causing the surrounding people to sigh. Noah didn't expect that one day, he would be understood by a group of passers-by. Tears streamed down his face. After smiling bitterly for a while, Noah half knelt in front of Hestia, who seemed to have received a heavy blow. He maintained the same height as Hestia, stretched out his hand, and patted Hestia's head. I'm back. Hearing this, Hestia's youthful but beautiful face gradually recovered. She looked at Noah and gave him a cute smile. Welcome back. I'm sorry. Please make way. At dusk, among the crowd on the street, a pair was running at an extremely fast speed. It was a pair of a man and a woman. The man was a human. It was a white-haired human who was about 15 or 16 years old. He was wearing pure silver light armor and had a short knife at his waist. The woman was a small human. The man had reddish-brown hair and was wearing a gray cloak. He was carrying a backpack that was almost as big as his body. This pair was constantly apologizing to the surrounding people, but they couldn't help but squeeze through the crowd and run at their fastest speed on the street. Bale, please go faster. I know. It was Bale and Lily. Bale and Lily squeezed through the crowd at an extremely fast speed. Under the curses of the surrounding residents, they kept running forward until they reached the base camp of Hestia's family. Then, without any hesitation, they pushed the door open. Bang! With a loud bang, the door was opened. Then Bale and Lily saw it. In the hall, on the sofa, Noah and Hestia were sitting together and chatting about something. Noah heard the sound and turned his head. When he saw Bale and Lily who suddenly barged in, he couldn't help but smile. Hey Bale, Lily, long time no see. Leader, Bale said in surprise. You're really back? Lord Noah, Lily said in a happy tone. You're finally back. During the month when Noah was away, Bale and Lily didn't idle at home. Instead, they teamed up to explore the dungeon. Of course, unlike Noah, who could enter the deeper area, Belle and Lily were still struggling in the upper area. I heard from Hestia. Bale, Lily, you've reached level 12, right? Noah praised. Well done. It seems that you've made great progress in the past month. No, Lord Noah, you're too kind. Lily quickly shook her head. I'm just a support. I helped Lord Bale pick up magic stones and carry your luggage. It's all thanks to Lord Bale that we could reach level 12. It's not like that, Bale quickly refuted. If it weren't for Lily, I wouldn't have been able to fight freely. Moreover, Lily would have supported me from the rear. Without Lily, I wouldn't have been able to reach level 12. No. Lily only contributed a little. Lord Bale is the best. No. Lily is the best. I'm just brute force. Without Lily, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Lord Bale, you're too modest. Lily is overestimating me. Noya and Hestia looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh at the same time. All right, both of you have worked very hard. As your overgod, I am very happy, Hestia said with a bit of pride and emotion. A few months ago, I was still a destitute god who didn't even have a clan or a single member. That's why I've seen your performance, and I'm satisfied from the bottom of my heart. You don't have to decline. Hestia is right. Noah nodded and glanced at Bale and Lily. A month ago, Bale was still a rookie. Now, he's already reached the 12th floor. I've seen your progress and growth. Although Lily isn't good at fighting, I know that you're a think tank. Without you, Bale wouldn't have been able to clear the floors so quickly. You must have helped a lot behind the scenes. Both of you have done well. With that said, Noah picked up 2 pieces of parchment from the table. Even if you're modest, your current ability values are recorded here. I can see that you've made great progress just by looking at your ability values. Bale Chronal V. 1 Strength, B, 737, Durability, C, 677, Dexterity, B, 749, Dexterity, 817, Magic Power, C, 611, Magic, Flame Lightning, Quick Attack Magic Skills. Hero's Wish, active action has the right to execute it. Leluka Erda LV. 1 Strength, I, 81, Endurance, H, 124, Dexterity, G, 236, Dexterity, F, 388, Magic Power, E, 404, Magic, Cinderella, Transformation Magic. Transformation image changes according to imagination when chanting. Failure when lack of specificity. Suggested imitation. Chant. Your mark belongs to me, my mark still belongs to me. Incantation. The voice of the apocalypse at 12 o'clock. Tils. Behind the scenes. Bonus when the weight of the equipment exceeds a certain level. The ability bonus is proportional to the weight. Let's not talk about Lily for now. Bale's ability value is growing really fast. A month ago, none of his basic abilities were at level H, but now, the lowest one is at level C. Ability value can't lie. Noah smiled. So, don't be modest. Is that so? Bale and Lily both scratched their heads embarrassedly, but there was a trace of excitement in their expressions. Clearly, the two of them were very happy to be praised by their leader, Noah. By the way, I just came back and I'm a little hungry. Noah changed the topic. Bale, Lily, can you help me make something to eat first? Yes. Bale and Lily quickly put down the equipment in their hands and walked into the kitchen. Looking at Bale and Lily who walked into the kitchen, Noah's eyes narrowed slightly. Chapter 1976. Listening to the voices of Belle and Lily in the kitchen, Noah shifted his gaze back to the parchment in his hand. Looking at their ability values, he frowned slightly. Hestia, who had been observing Noah, naturally saw the slight frown on Noah's face. However, she didn't feel puzzled. Instead, she lowered her voice and said, she asked in a low voice, "What do you think?" "That's impossible, right?" Noah also lowered his voice, but he did not look at Hestia. Instead, he took out the parchment that recorded Bale's ability value and placed it on the table. Isn't the growth of this ability value a little too unusual? That's right. Bale's ability value growth was a little unusual. Now, Noah was no longer the young boy who didn't know anything when he first came to this world. Noah had personally helped him upgrade his ability value more than once, so he was much more familiar with it than before. Therefore, Noah knew that Baal's ability value growth was a little unusual. I remember you told me before that in other spawns, the average ability value would only grow faster at the beginning. Even so, within 1 or 2 weeks, or even 1 or 2 months, their basic ability proficiency would not exceed 20 points, Noah said. If that's the case, isn't Baal's ability value growth a little too unusual? Others could only increase their basic ability proficiency by less than 20 points within 1 or 2 weeks, or even 1 or 2 months. But in this 1 month, to what extent did Baal's proficiency in his basic abilities increase? It increased by more than 3,000 points. Was this growth rate normal? Of course it's not normal, Hestia replied, but then her face fell. She looked at Noah with an annoyed expression. I really want to say that, but don't forget that Baal took at least a month to grow to this point. You, on the other hand, increased your ability proficiency by more than 2,500 points in a day. You even leveled up twice in a month. Who's more abnormal than you? Noah choked. If it wasn't for the fact that I was immune to your strange growth, I would have been scared out of my wits. Hestia sighed and reached out her hand. However, it's different from you. The reason why you can grow so quickly is because of the possibilities in your body. The reason why Baal can grow so quickly is because of his skills. She lightly traced her finger on the parchment that recorded Baal's ability value. Clang! Under a faint flash of light, the ability value on the parchment changed a little. To be more precise, there was an additional skill in Baal's ability. Longing with all my heart precocious. The effect was maintained at the same time as the feeling of longing. The stronger the longing, the greater the effect. Yearning with all my heart? Noah said in surprise. What skill is this? It's a rare skill, Hestia said with certainty. I think the reason why Baal's ability value grew so quickly is because of this skill. In other words, this is a skill that can increase the speed of growth. Noah was a little surprised. It seems that Baal's luck is not bad. It's not luck, Hestia shook her head and said seriously to Noah. Don't forget, the so-called skills are created when a person's nature, constitution, and interest are related to other factors. Baal's skill is the same. For example, Miss Support's hero behind the scenes is based on her determination to become a professional support. Baal's hero wish is probably because he was stimulated by you and longed to become a hero like you. That's why it was created. Hestia pointed at the skill in Baal's ability value. And this so-called yearning with all my heart is no doubt because Baal has a strong longing for someone. It's based on that. Who did he have a strong longing for? Noah was stunned. Then he remembered how Baal always blushed in front of a certain young lady. His eyes widened at once. It can't be, that's right, Hestia said helplessly. The girl that Baal has his eyes on should be the one from that idiot Loki's clan. Who was it? Ace Wallenstein. In the beginning, Baal was looking forward to being the first person he would meet when he met the beautiful girl in the underground city. Since that was the case, it was not strange for Baal to have a yearning for AIC. Unfortunately, that Wallenstein doesn't have any interest in Baal, Hestia said with gritted teeth. If it was someone from our clan, I wouldn't mind helping Baal. But since Baal has his eyes on someone from Loki's clan, then don't even think about it. You two still don't like each other? Noah was speechless. But now that the riddle in his heart was solved, Noah's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. He crumpled the parchment in his hand. Also, I can roughly guess why you're hiding this skill. Baal's yearning with all his heart was definitely a rare skill. It might even be a unique skill. After all, if the same skill appeared, someone who grew so quickly would have made a name for himself long ago. Since Baal had a unique skill, if the gods of other clans knew about it, they would definitely rush over to snatch it. 4 gods who yearned for a little entertainment all day, the appearance of a rare skill would definitely arouse everyone's interest. When the time came, Baal would probably be devoured without leaving even his bones behind. That was why Hestia had hidden this ability and didn't want to reveal it. Perhaps even Baal did not know that he had such a skill. Baal is too gullible. Once he knows that he has such a rare skill, he won't be able to hide anything. Hestia puffed up her cheeks. If Baal is half as smart as you, then I don't have to worry about him being played around by others. You should be content, Noah laughed. Others can't even get a member of their clan with a rare skill. Not only do you have it, but you also think that he's not smart enough. That's a little too much, isn't it? I know, that's why I'm just thinking about it. Hestia puffed up her cheeks even more. Anyway, I'll only tell you this. You have to keep an eye on Baal. Don't let him be deceived by those gods with bad intentions. Got it, Noah muttered thoughtfully as he cast his gaze on Baal, who was busy in the kitchen. Also, since Baal's all-ability value is above C stage, then I'll find a chance to take him to the middle or lower level to see if he can level up. Hestia patted Noah's shoulder like an old man, but then she thought of something and said, Then I'll leave it to you. I trust you. Speaking of ability value, you haven't updated your ability value for a month. I'll help you update your ability value and see how much you've grown. Hearing this, Noah's expression froze. Help Noah to update his ability value? The problem was, did Noah have any ability value to be updated? Noah's ability value was still evolving in the between worlds. How could he update his ability value? Noah quickly said, With my current level, I don't think I can improve much in a month. Let's update it together later. Huh? Hestia was startled. Undoubtedly, your growth is frighteningly fast. Based on that growth rate, it's not strange for you to level up after a month of continuous killing in the deeper level, right? Maybe. Noah smiled awkwardly and said hesitantly, But I don't kill monsters all day in the deeper level. After all, the map isn't very detailed, and the deeper level is so vast. I get lost every 2 or 3 days, so I shouldn't have grown much. Is that so? Hestia looked directly at Noah, her eyes full of suspicion. Are you hiding something from me? Am I? Noah turned his head away. No, right? Hestia reached out her hand and held Noah's face, turning his head to face her. You must be. Don't try to lie to me. I'm still a god. You can't lie in front of a god. No. Noah quickly pulled Hestia's hand away. Okay, I'm going to help Belle and Lily cook. After saying that, Noah turned around and was about to run away. Don't even think about running away. Hestia suddenly jumped on Noah's back and hung on tightly. Once again, Noah's body was fiercely squeezed, causing Noah to almost scream again. As a result, the two wrestled in the living room until night fell. Chapter 1977. As a result, after messing around for an entire night, Hestia still did not get anything out of Noah. After all, if Noah told Hestia that his ability points had been stripped away for some reason, she would definitely suffer the most serious blow and be unable to recover from it. It couldn't be helped. The ability points carved by the gods were equivalent to belonging to a member of a clan. It told everyone that they belonged to the clan. In Hestia's opinion, Noah's ability points being stripped away was the same as leaving one's clan. In addition, Noah's ability points were carved by Hestia herself. Noah himself was the first member of Hestia's clan and the family member that she valued the most. If she knew that Noah's ability points had been stripped away, even if it was only temporary, it would definitely be a blow to her. Ever since the war game with Apollo's minions, Hestia's possessiveness towards Noah had risen to the extreme. She would never allow any main god to touch Noah. Normally, she would guard against gods as if they were wolves. It could be seen how important Noah was to Hestia. And now, the ability value that I had personally engraved on Noah had been stripped away. Noah no longer had the favor that I had given him. He was now considered free. Regardless of the reason, this fact alone would make Hestia cry, wouldn't it? Therefore, Noah really could not tell Hestia the truth. He could only endure Hestia's endless pestering while wailing under the various intimate touches of the young goddess. In the end, he was freed by Baal and Lily. However, it didn't take long for a new problem to arise. That was the problem of accommodation. It should be noted that there were only 3 rooms in Hestia's clan's base camp. After Lily moved in, an emergency had been declared for the room. However, at that time, Noah was ready to leave, so he gave his room to Lily. Now that Noah had returned, the problem of the room arose once again. Noah did not mind sleeping on the sofa in the living room. However, whether it was Hestia, Baal, or Lily, none of them agreed to this matter. Therefore, after some arguments, Hestia announced in the most willful manner, "Noah will stay in my room. No one is allowed to object." Under the orders of the overlord, Baal and Lily compromised. As for Noah, there was only one thought in his mind. It's over. That night, Noah was hugged tightly by Hestia, and she also rubbed against him fiercely for the entire night. Noah almost had a nefarious desire. If it wasn't for the fact that Noah knew that Aster, Athena, Orpheus, and Lilith were still living in his gift card, and that the 4 girls could peek into the outside world at any time and see what he was doing, Noah wasn't sure if he could endure it for the entire night. Not to mention, the goddess of wisdom seemed to have seen through Noah's heart. When Hasti gave Noah all kinds of benefits, she spoke to Noah in such a way that it was as if she had seen through Noah's heart. She is like me. She is famous for being a virgin goddess. She has always maintained her purity. Do you want to blaspheme such a goddess while she is sleeping? Is she my fated person? This sentence made Noah completely lose his temper. That night, Noah couldn't sleep without any suspense. Moreover, he would probably continue to have insomnia for the rest of the night. In this regard, Noah could only leave this sentence in the endless night. What kind of sin have I committed? The next day, as soon as the sun rose, Noah came out of Hestia's room. Leader? What? Lord Noah? In the living room, Belle and Lily, who were tidying up their equipment, were quite surprised to see Noah coming out of the room. There was no other reason other than the fact that Noah looked so tired that he almost had 2 dark circles around his eyes. In the hearts of Belle and Lily, Noah had always been a great existence. He was like a hero and a brave man. He could even destroy Apollo's family with his own strength. Even Elvi, 7, who was known as Aureli's ultimate weapon, couldn't do anything to him. He was so strong that he was like a god. Therefore, when they saw Noah's haggard face, Belle and Lily were really shocked. Noah didn't know that his appearance had frightened them. He yawned and greeted Belle and Lily. "Good morning, both of you." Good morning," Belle replied stupidly before he realized what was going on. "No, it's not the time to say good morning. Leader, what happened? What's going on?" Noah was slightly startled and asked curiously. "Nothing? Why did you suddenly say that?" "Because Lord Noah looks very tired," Lily said cautiously. "Did he not have enough rest?" "Then, Lord Noah, it's best for you to take a rest." "Yes." Belle nodded. "Leader, you just came back from the deep zone. You should rest more." "No need," Noah said with a wry smile. "Anyway, I definitely can't rest." "Can't rest?" Belle and Lily were taken aback, and they were extremely puzzled. Why can't he rest? Did something really happen? Belle and Lily both thought so. However, before the 2 of them had the chance to think too much, Noah spoke lazily. "Are you going to the dungeon?" "Yes," Lily replied. Lily and Lord Bell usually enter the dungeon at this time. "Is that so?" Noah nodded and continued asking. "Then, which level are you going to today?" "Same as yesterday. We're going to walk around level 12, Belle said dejectedly. "Actually, I want to go to level 13. Don't even think about it, Lord Bell," Lily interrupted without hesitation. "Starting from the 13th floor is the middle floor. In the division of the guild, it is a floor that only LV, 2 high-level adventurers can explore. Although Lord Bell is already considered to be outstanding in LV 1, after all, he is still LV 1 and cannot take risks." "But isn't there Lily?" Bell asked. "If there's a team, even level 1 adventurers can go to the middle zone, right?" "Indeed, if there's a team, we can go to the middle zone." Lily sighed. "But Lord Bale, please think about it carefully. Our team only has 2 people, and only Lord Bale has sufficient combat power. Lily is only a support, and her combat power is not up to par. It is too dangerous for us to challenge the middle class in our current situation. Bell naturally understood Lily's meaning, but he didn't know what to say and lowered his head. Although it wasn't like before, where he wanted to seek encounters in the dungeon all day long, as an adventurer, he definitely wanted to challenge the lower zone. Unfortunately, the middle zone was different from the upper zone. Starting from the middle zone, the monster's strength would not only increase to a level that was extremely dangerous for level 1 adventurers, but the frequency of monsters' appearance would also increase greatly. With Bell's current strength, if he went to the middle zone, even with Lily's support, he would definitely die. Lily doesn't want to stop Lord Bell like this, but it's really not suitable to go to the middle zone at the moment. Even if Lord Bell rose to level 2, Lily would still stop him. Lily said very seriously. Lily had the honor of going to the 17th floor with Lord Noah, so Lily knows how terrible the monsters in the middle zone are. Unless Lord Bell can find other trustworthy teammates, it's too dangerous to go to the middle zone now. Teammates? Bell was a little dejected. At this moment, Noah spoke. In that case, let me be your teammate. Bell and Lily first made a sound of disbelief, and when they understood Noah's meaning, even their eyes widened. Leader, Lord Noah, will be our teammate. Don't make a fuss, okay? Noah was speechless. No matter what, we are all partners of the same clan. Is it strange to go to the maze together? Or do you not trust me? No. There's no such thing. Bell's head shook like a rattle drum, and Lily quickly said, It's just that Lord Noah has just returned, and he should have a good rest. It's a waste of talent to go to the dungeon with us. No, it's a waste of talent. Whether it's a waste of talent or not, it should be up to me, not you, Noah said snappily. Do you think I'm going to take care of you? Bell and Lily suddenly looked at each other and said in unison, Isn't that so? Suddenly, Noah choked on his words. Okay, maybe more or less, but I'm not going to escort you on a whim. I don't intend to spoil you to this extent. Noah rolled his eyes. Are you going or not? At that moment, Bell and Lily could only nod helplessly. Chapter 1978. In the central square of the Labyrinth City, Olalai. Noah and Bale were on standby in the square surrounding the white wall tower that reached the sky. Looking at the sleepy Noah standing in front of the Tower of Babel and yawning incessantly, the surrounding adventurers who were preparing to enter the dungeon whispered to each other. That's the tyrant, right? He looks more lazy in real life than in the live broadcast of the war games. What do you know? Maybe to him, entering the dungeon is such an easy thing to do? Well, to the tyrant, other than the deeper levels, the upper, middle, and even lower levels are all very easy, right? In other words, he doesn't intend to enter the deeper levels today, right? After all, he just came back yesterday, the adventurers were whispering to each other as they looked at Noah in awe. Noah, who was used to it, did not care about it, but Bale felt a little uncomfortable. I feel so much pressure standing next to the leader. One was a super famous person that even LV5 and LV6 adventurers could only look up to. The other was a rookie LV1 adventurer who had not leveled up yet. How could the adventurers not feel pressured when the two of them stood next to each other and were surrounded by people who were whispering to each other? At least, Bale felt a little pain in his stomach. Under such circumstances, Bale fully realized how amazing the people around him were. I don't know when I can be like the leader and Miss Wallenstein, who are respected by everyone. While Bale was thinking about this, the surrounding people started to talk about him. Who's that white-haired brat next to him? He seems to be from the same clan as the tyrant. Is he planning to enter the dungeon with the tyrant? No wonder the tyrant looks bored. He's here to bring a newbie. I'm so envious. If I had the tyrant to bring me, I would have leveled up to LV2. Yeah, clearly hearing the discussions around him and bearing the envious gazes of the people around him, Bale felt a pang of fear in his heart. As a rookie LV1 adventurer, it was really a rare thing for Bell to be looked at with such envious eyes. Although sometimes, some LV1 adventurers would look at Bell with envious eyes, Bell knew that it was not for him, but for his equipment. Don't forget that back then, Noah had personally equipped Baal with a set of equipment that was too extravagant for a newbie adventurer. There was even a Tier 3 weapon that only a Tier 3 adventurer could possess. Therefore, in the past, Baal could occasionally see some LV-1 adventurers looking at the equipment on his body with envious eyes, and secretly scolding him for wasting God's gift and joining a good clan. Frankly speaking, Baal had the same idea in the beginning. Hence, Baal put in extra effort in exploring the dungeon, hoping that he could become an adventurer worthy of his equipment. Now, the envy of the people around him was no longer directed at Baal's equipment, but at him. Naturally, Baal began to feel uncomfortable. So, Baal couldn't help but speak. "Why isn't Lily back yet? Do you think it's easy to prepare all the items?" Noah yawned and replied, "You originally planned to stop at the 12th floor, so the elixirs and items you prepared were all low level. Lily suddenly left halfway to prepare more elixirs and items, in case she needed them in the lower floors. Is that so?" Baal touched his head in confusion. "I feel that with the leader here, those elixirs and items may not be of use." "You're wrong." Noah glanced at Baal. "The battle still needs to be done by you, otherwise, how can you gain experience points?" Today, Noah came with Baal to see if there was a chance to give Baal a push to level up to LV2. If he could, after Noah, Baal would become the second adventurer to level up to LV2 in only 1 month, and he would become famous from then on. Back then, Noah took a month to not only level up to LV2, but he also leveled up to LV3. Before leaving, he also leveled up to become LV4 adventurer. His speed was so fast that it was boundless. However, the strength shown by Noah was not proportional to his level at all. His real strength was far higher than his level. Outsiders did not believe that Noah was a newcomer at all. The guild had Noah's information, but it was filled in when they registered. As a result, even the staff cast a suspicious look at Noah. Obviously, they did not believe it. If there was a genius who took only 1 month to level up to LV2 in Hestia's clan, then no one would think that Hestia was just lucky to pick up a treasure. Noah just wanted to tell everyone that Hestia was also qualified to be the main god of a clan. Under such circumstances, Noah and Baal waited for about half an hour. In the end, instead of Lily, another group of acquaintances appeared. "Little brother." Accompanied by such a voice, in the distance, an Amazon girl with wheat-colored skin waved enthusiastically in the direction of Noah. Beside the Amazon girl with wheat-colored skin, there were 3 other people. One was an Amazon girl with wheat-colored skin. A very pure elven girl. There was also a young swordswoman with light golden hair that reached her waist. She had golden hair and golden eyes. Surprisingly, they were Tiona, and Rifaya of Loki's clan, as well as Ace, who was the first to welcome Noah's return yesterday and chatted with Noah for a whole afternoon. Noah looked at the girls of Loki's clan in a daze. "You're here too?" "Miss Wallenstein?" Baal's face quickly turned red when he saw Ace. He hurriedly hid behind Noah. Unfortunately, the girls of Loki's clan didn't care about Baal at all and ran straight to Noah. "Long time no see, little brother." Tiona hugged Noah's arm as if she was very happy. "As expected, you came to the dungeon today too." "When Ace said you were coming back, we thought we would meet you today." Tiona pursed her lips and smiled. "After all, we've always been fated to meet each other. And every time I meet you, it's definitely not a good thing." Noah let out a sigh and looked at Ace, who had been standing there quietly. His voice softened a little. "Didn't you say yesterday that Riveria allowed you to practice crush magic in the morning? I thought you would definitely come in the afternoon." "I came with Tiona today." Ace's expression was as emotionless as usual, but her eyes were much gentler than usual. "I didn't want to come so early. Just like what Tiona said, I felt like I would meet little brother today, so I called Ace and Leafia along," Tiona said with a smile. "And we have to earn some money to repay the debt for the custom-made weapons." "Custom-made weapons?" Noah immediately understood. "I see. Are you talking about the monsters that could dissolve weapons during the previous expedition?" "That's right. Our weapons were dissolved by those despicable monsters," Tiona said with a sigh. In the end, we had to borrow money for the custom-made weapons, except for Leafia. How unlucky. In other words, you intend to enter the dungeon to repay the debt. Noah nodded and looked at Leafia in confusion. Then why are you here? I see. Wait, why do you suddenly understand? Leafia widened her eyes. Didn't you want to ask why I'm here? After all, Leafia was a magic shooter who specialized in magic. Unlike Ace and the others, she didn't need to use weapons at the front line. She shouldn't need to borrow money for the custom-made weapons. It wasn't surprising that Noah wanted to ask why the elf girl was here. However, halfway through the question, Noah guessed the reason. As for you, you must have come because Ace is here, right? Noah looked at Leafia with a faint smile. Isn't that so? Leafia was at a loss for words. Tiona couldn't help but laugh out loud. At this moment, Ace asked Noah tentatively, "Do you want to go down together?" Of course, she was referring to entering the dungeon. Hearing this, Noah said, "I have 2 newbies here. It might take a lot of time." "It's okay," Ace answered simply. "We only plan to go to the 18th floor today." Noah pondered for a moment and nodded. However, Noah did not expect that this nod would indeed confirm what he had said before. Nothing good would come out of meeting Loki's family. Chapter 1979. In the fog-filled underground city, a roar that caused the air to tremble slightly resounded. This was the 12th floor of the underground city. On this floor, shrouded in heavy fog, a fierce battle was going on. Bale, holding a dagger, was like an arrow leaving the bow. He stomped on the ground and rushed towards the group of orcs in front of him. It was a group of huge orcs with pig heads and beast bodies. There were not many of them, about a dozen or so. However, these dozen or so orcs were definitely not something a LV-1 adventurer could deal with. However, Bale rushed forward without fear. The dagger in his hand cut through the air again and again, bringing with it a cold blade light, passing through the fat bodies of the orcs. Poochie poochie poochie. Along with the sound of ripping silk, the cold blade light easily cut open the fat body of the half-beast man. It cut open the thick flesh and peeled open the tough fur, causing numerous hideous wounds to appear on the half-beast man's body, causing bursts of blood to spurt out. The orcs all roared in pain, but after being injured, they became even more violent. Holding a stick in their hands, as if they had fallen into madness, they fiercely swung it at the adventurer who attacked them. However, before that, Bale had already relied on his extraordinary speed to escape like a rabbit, causing the clubs that were swinging towards him to smash heavily onto the ground, causing a series of muffled sounds and sand to fly everywhere. Bale wandered in the flying sand at an impressive speed. His figure was like lightning. Every time he rushed in front of the orcs, he would leave a bloody wound on the huge bodies of the orcs, causing the orcs' painful howls to resound for a long time. In the distance, Noah and a group of girls from Loki's clan watched this scene leisurely, constantly expressing their own thoughts. What fast movements! That little brother seems to be very good at dealing with heavy opponents. Tiona, he's really fast, although he's far from being as fast as Bert, but Bert is a werewolf who's good at speed, and he's also a LV-5 adventurer. I guess he wasn't as fast as Bert when he was LV-1, right? Tiona. However, compared to that little brother named Bale, that little guy named Lily is really powerful. Tiona. Yeah, I'm surprised. Tiona. Under the words of the Amazon twins, everyone looked at the corners some distance away from the front line. Lily, who was carrying a backpack that was twice as big as her body, stood there. As a supporter with little fighting power, it's not strange for her to be far away from the front line. However, Lily didn't just stand there. Instead, she raised her hand with a serious face, using the crossbow equipped on her arm as a weapon, constantly pulling the bowstring and shooting arrows. Both Tiona and Tiona were confused when they saw Lily's actions at first. This was because orcs were considered to be one of the highest level monsters on the 1st to 12th floors. Although their huge size and fat body made their movements clumsy, they were famous for their monstrous strength and thick fur. They weren't characters that could be killed by mere bows and arrows. Therefore, The twin Amazon sisters didn't know the purpose of Lily holding a crossbow and shooting in the corner at first. It wasn't until a while later that their eyes lit up. They saw that the arrows shot by Lily were not aimed at the orcs, but at the ground. The arrows were shot one after another on the ground, but it just happened to stop the group of orcs who intended to attack from behind Bale, giving Bale a chance to breathe. After he reacted, he immediately brandished his sword and cut the bodies of the orcs. Almost at the same time, Lily's arrows were shot again, but this time, they didn't land on the ground. Instead, they were aimed at the orcs who were cut by Bale's short sword. The sharp arrows seemed to have eyes as they pierced into the open wounds of the half-blood beastmen. The half-blood beastmen howled in pain and even slowed down their attacks. Knowing that ordinary arrows would not be able to harm the thick-skinned orcs, Lily had been supporting Bale in such a way, making use of every opportunity she had. If it weren't for Miss Supporter's help, that white-haired young man wouldn't have been able to kill so many orcs so easily, right? Tiona had a whole new level of respect for Lily. I didn't notice that little human Miss Supporter at first. I didn't expect her to be so powerful. Indeed, she has amazing insight and great judgment. Seems like she's a think tank. Tiona began to look at Lily in the eye. She's similar to Leader. However, apart from being smart, Leader's combat strength is also flawless. Naturally, Leafia heard the conversation between Tiona and Tiona as well. Besides, when Lily began to play a role, Leafia was the one who observed Lily's performance the most. Though her level is lower than mine and her combat strength is weak, Miss Lily is the real professional supporter. I have to learn from her. Leafia was a level 3 magic shooter. This level was already considered very high when more than half of the people in Eulalia were only at LV 1 on average. However, Leafia was only a newbie in the group of level 1 adventurers in Loki's clan. Although she was considered to be Riveria's successor and often acted with level 1 adventurers such as Aze, Tiona, and Tiona, when the team entered the dungeon, Leafia would usually accompany them as a supporter and learn from the combat methods of her seniors. In this way, she could more or less learn from Lily's method of support, which would allow Leafia, who was usually not very useful, to be of some use. Moreover, she would be of greater use than Lily. After all, Miss Lily is only using ordinary bows and arrows, while I'm using magic. My support will definitely be greater. With that thought, Leafia observed Lily's actions very seriously. On the other hand, Noah and Aze stayed at the back of the team and chatted. From time to time, they would glance at Bale, who was fighting with the orcs, and Lily, who was providing support. Seeing Noah and Aze like this, Tiona and Tiona also whispered to each other. "Hey Tiona, don't you think Big Brother and Aze are much closer than before?" Tiona, even the atmosphere has changed. Seems like a lot of things have happened that we don't know about. Tiona, don't tell me that the two of them have already done that? Tiona, it's possible. If Loki knew about this, he would most likely explode. Tiona, Aze is so cunning. She actually found such a good man in secret. Tiona, I'll have to interrogate her properly when we get back. Tiona, the two sisters gathered together and snickered. Leafia, who was studying seriously at the side, almost lost her train of thought. She glared fiercely at Noah. Noah, who was chatting with Aze, felt a chill run down his spine. His expression stiffened. Aze tilted her head and asked in confusion. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Noah scratched his cheek and spread his hands helplessly. "I'm just feeling a little emotional about your popularity." "Popularity?" Aze was even more confused. "Forget it." Noah stretched out his hand and patted Aze's head amusedly. "You won't understand even if I tell you." Aze's face was instantly filled with confusion, but when Noah patted her head, her pretty face couldn't help but show a hint of shyness. At the same time, a few screams rang out. "Over there." Leafia finally couldn't stand it anymore. "Put your hand down. Big Brother and Aze are really together." Tiona said excitedly. "I found out." "When did this happen?" Tyogni's face was filled with curiosity. "You'll have to explain it later." At the same time, Bale, who was fighting with the orc, was almost hit by a club. Lily's attention was also distracted, causing the originally solemn scene to become chaotic. Noah could only smile bitterly at this. What's going on? Chapter 1980. After spending about 10 minutes, Belle and Lily finally dealt with a group of orcs in the chaos and arrived before Noah. Lord Noah, Lily grumbled. Please don't distract Lily and the others while flirting with the girls, all right? Bale didn't say anything when Lily grumbled, but he looked at Noah with resentment and envy. What's there to be envious of? Envious of the intimate interaction between Noah and AIC. Bale blushed as he looked at AIC, who was standing beside Noah with her head tilted. She didn't seem to understand the current situation. It had to be said that Bale's bashful appearance really gave people goosebumps. Ever since he decided to enter the underground city with the girls from Loki's clan, Bale had been bashful all the way. When he wasn't fighting, he would hide at the back and peek at Ike's. This made Leafia want to raise her wand and blast a fireball at Bale's face countless times. It wasn't because Leafia was overprotective of AIC. Although this was more or less a factor, the main reason why Leafia had such an impulse was that Bale, a grown man, was actually acting coy like a young girl in love. She really couldn't help but want to beat him up. If it wasn't for the fact that Bale would get serious once he entered battle mode, perhaps even Leafia, Tiona and Tyan wouldn't be able to stand it. Of course, Noah wasn't surprised. After all, Bale was someone who looked forward to meeting in the underground city. Undoubtedly, Bale was a new adventurer who had just received a favor and wanted to go to the lower floors of the underground city to flirt with girls. Now, Bale was undoubtedly much better. That was why Noah just smiled. Looking at Noah's amused expression, Tiona snickered, while Rifia puffed up her cheeks and sulked. Only Ace still didn't understand what was going on. There was a question mark hanging over her head. All right, let's stop joking around. Lily sighed and then became serious. So then, Sir Noah, can you tell Lily what you plan to do next? Bale also focused his attention. If it were any other day, Bale and Lily would start exploring this floor, killing monsters, earning magic stones, and working hard for a day. But today, since Noah was leading the team, he definitely didn't want to spend time on the 12th floor. Bale and Lily were already prepared, ready to enter the lower floors. In fact, Noah wasn't here to watch Bale and Lily earn magic stones. Steadily. Since the Loki's family members intend to head to the 18th floor, let's set that as our goal. Sure enough, Noah immediately said something shocking. But, starting from the 13th floor all the way to the 18th floor, you'll be responsible for defeating all the monsters along the way, Bale. What? Lily was taken aback. Me alone? Bale was also shocked. Not to mention Lily and Bale, even AIC and the others were stunned and looked at each other. Little brother, isn't this a bit too much? Tiona couldn't help but ask. Your junior is only LV1. It's already very dangerous for him to enter the 13th floor. It's simply impossible for him to attack from the 13th floor to the 18th floor alone. Tyan nodded. If you want to attack all the way to the 18th floor, you should at least form a LV2 team of 3 to guarantee success. Otherwise, it's too dangerous. Although AIC and Leafia didn't say anything, they seemed to have the same opinion. In this regard, Noah just smiled. Don't worry, since I said so, I naturally have my own ideas. Let's go to the 13th floor first. Hearing this, the girls who knew that Noah had many magical means began to be curious. This time, what kind of means will Noah show? Is this the 13th floor? Bale gripped his dagger tightly as he scanned his surroundings. This is a completely different floor from the foggy 12th floor. If the 12th floor is described as a white space, then the 13th floor is a black space. This is like the inside of a cave. The space is extremely dark. Rocks stand up around. The walls, floor, and ceiling are all dark rock plates, with some moist air floating around. An almost bottomless passage extends to the front. The road has no curves, but there is no end to it at all, as if it can lead people to hell. In addition, in the corners of the walls, there are caves like wells leading to the bottom, which look like traps. Those vertical caves can actually lead to the next floor. In the middle level, there are many caves like this. Therefore, for those skilled adventurers, using these caves to directly ignore the monsters wreaking havoc in the floors, they can rush to the next floor with the fastest speed. For adventurers who had just reached the middle level of the dungeon, it was a well-deserved trap. Because these caves can only go down but not up. Unless one can fly, or have some means of leaping on roofs and walls, otherwise, once one falls down, one will be surrounded by the monsters of the 14th floor before even finishing the 13th floor. That is definitely a narrow escape. In addition, from this floor onwards, the monsters will begin to have some special abilities, such as a monster called the Hellhound that can spit out scorching flames to attack from a distance. The frequency of monsters appearing is also much higher than the upper level. There will be dozens of monsters swarming out at the same time. If one is not vigilant, only death will await. Not only Bale, but even Lily, who had been to the 17th floor with Noah, was on high alert when she thought of the things that she had to pay attention to. Compared to Bale and Lily, Noah, Ace, Tiona, Tyogny, and even Leafia look relaxed, not taking the dangers of this floor seriously. Under such circumstances, Noah takes a step forward and raises his hand. Clink. A dazzling light flashed, causing everyone present to subconsciously close their eyes. After the flash of light dimmed, everyone opened their eyes again, and the scene that appeared in front of them stunned them. Because one of Noah's arms is actually covered by a ferocious crimson hand that looks like a dragon's claw, imprinted in everyone's eyes. What's that? Everyone was puzzled. However, without giving them too much time to be puzzled, Noah grasped the hand tightly. Boost! A clear but deep voice sounded, causing the jade on the back of the hand to flash, giving everyone a fright. Noah, on the other hand, turned his head and looked ahead. Bale, stop daydreaming, get ready for battle. Bale let out a sound of disbelief, and then he finally noticed. In front of him, black hellhounds with a pitch-black luster slowly walked out of the shadows, looking over with ruthless and ferocious eyes. Hellhounds? Bale's voice began to change. That's right, those are the monsters that appeared from the 13th floor onwards, the hellhounds that can spit out scorching flames. Ace, Tiona, Tyogny, and Leafia all placed their hands on their weapons when they saw the hellhounds lined up in a row with red flames rising and falling from their mouths. However, at this moment, Noah pressed his hand that was equipped with the ferocious hand on Bale's shoulder. Transfer. Bale felt it when he heard this voice. He felt a powerful force surging out of his body. Bale was stunned. In response, Noah just pushed Bale forward. Go! Bale reacted when he heard this, and his eyes suddenly focused. Bang! In the next moment, Bale stomped on the ground and shot toward the group of hellhounds at an astonishing speed. His speed had long surpassed that of a LV-1 adventurer. Chapter 1981. At this moment, not only Lily, but even the girls from Loki's clan were stunned. Whoosh! Bale shot towards a Cerberus at a speed that caused the entire cavern to reverberate with faint sonic booms. The Cerberus was still trying to suppress the flames in its mouth. Before it could react, Bale's dagger had already slashed across. Slash! The crisp sound of flesh being torn apart sounded. The sharp dagger cut through the Cerberus's neck, cut through the tough flesh, and came out from the back of the Cerberus neck without any obstruction. Slap! The Cerberus head fell to the ground, rolled a few times, and scattered into a pile of ashes. Bale, who was still in the posture of wielding his dagger, was stunned. Lily, who was about to raise her crossbow to support, was stunned. Ace was stunned. Even the three girls, Tyone and Leafia, were stunned, and their eyes widened slightly. Noah was the only one who spoke calmly. Don't be in a daze. Continue to kill. Bale couldn't care less. His figure turned into a gust of wind, and he rushed toward the Cerberus. Such. Chaotic tearing sounds echoed in the dark and damp cave, sounding rhythmically. Every time the sound sounded, a burst of red blood would splash into the sky, and a Cerberus corpse would fall to the ground. Undoubtedly, even LV2 adventurers had to be wary of the middle-level monsters, but at this moment, a LV1 adventurer killed them one by one as if they were vegetables. In less than 10 seconds, more than a dozen Cerberus fell to the ground. Blood stained the ground, and the cave returned to silence. Bale, who was standing in the middle of a pile of Cerberus corpses, stared blankly at the Cerberus corpses, and he was at a loss. Did I do this? Not to mention Bale, even the group of level 1 adventurers doubted their eyes. It wasn't difficult for Ace, Tiny, and Tiny to kill a group of level 13 Cerberus as if they were vegetables. If he wanted to do the same thing, it would be a piece of cake. However, if it was a LV1 adventurer, it would be different. Even LV2 can't be that straightforward, right? Tyagni muttered. What's going on? In the next second, everyone turned their heads and focused their gazes on Noah. To be more precise, it was concentrated on the ferocious crimson gauntlet on Noah's arm. At this moment, even a fool could understand. The reason why Bale had suddenly become so strong was all because of the gauntlet. Under the gaze of everyone present, Noah smiled slightly and raised his arm equipped with the gauntlet in front of him. It's called Red Dragon Emperor's Boosted Gear. As a weapon, its performance is almost negligible, but it has a powerful ability. It can double the power every 10 seconds, and the power can be transferred to other individuals. The duration of the effect depends on the number of times it is doubled. Hearing this sentence, how could everyone not understand? The reason why Bale suddenly became strong was because Noah increased his power. It can double the power every 10 seconds? Everyone felt dizzy. Doesn't that mean that as long as you have this gauntlet, let alone a LV5 adventurer, even a LV6 or LV7 adventurer can compete with it? Moreover, if there is no limit to the doubling, how strong will you become in the end? Stronger than a god? No. Impossible. Leafia was really shaken. How can such a tool exist? Isn't this too unfair? Tiny, Tyagni, Lily, and Bale also looked at each other, and for a moment, they were speechless. Only Ace stared closely at Noah's gauntlet, and her eyes could no longer move away. Double the power every 10 seconds. Such an ability was like a divine artifact that she had been yearning for in her dreams since she was constantly pursuing power. Clearly knowing everyone's thoughts, Noah curled his lips. Don't be surprised. Although the ability is very powerful, it is not as terrifying as you think. Not to mention the problem of maintaining the doubled power, the number of times it can be doubled according to each person's strength and weakness. Simply put, this ability can indeed be infinitely strengthened, but the target who can bear the doubled power has its own limit. It can't really be infinitely strengthened. Even so, it's quite amazing, right? Not to mention other things, as long as the power can be doubled once or twice, it is not impossible to challenge a higher level. Isn't this enough to surprise people? As if seeing through everyone's thoughts, Noah suddenly smiled. Yes, even if there is a limit to the strengthening, this ability can easily allow people to challenge a higher level, and challenging a higher level is a great achievement. When Noah said this, everyone suddenly quivered. Challenging a higher level is a great achievement. Then doesn't that mean? Lily's voice trembled a little. As long as you have this power, then anyone can level up? It varies from person to person, right? If the possibility is too small, you can't level up, right? Noah shrugged and looked at Belle, who was stunned there. However, with this ability, it won't be a problem for you to attack all the way to the 18th floor. However, you, LV1, attacked the 18th floor alone. If you still can't level up, then even I won't believe it. Level up. Belle was stunned. Level up? Don't doubt it, it's you, Noah said in a bad mood. If it's not to help you level up, why do you think I'm here? Belle was at a loss. I can level up too? This huge meat pie fell just like that, and it really knocked Belle out. At this time, the rest of the people also reacted. Too amazing! Tiona abruptly threw her arms around Noah, giggling and jumping up and down as she yelled. Please be sure to help me too. I want to level up too. I want to level up too. Tiona could not help but hug Noah's other arm, squeezing her full upper body directly on it, and was a little excited. I've been stuck at LV5 for a long time, and I've long wanted to level up to LV6. Leafia and Lily did not say anything, but their eyes were also full of hope when they looked at Noah. AIC directly raised her hand and stared straight at Noah. I want to. Noah almost spurted out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by, I want to? Please don't say it's so easily misunderstood. At that moment, Noah let out a bitter laugh. Ace, Tiona, and Tiona are all level 1 adventurers above level 5. If they want to level up, it's almost impossible for them to do so without challenging the floor master. Not to mention, Ace is level 6. If they want to level up, they have to accumulate a lot of EXP. Only Leafia and Lily have it easier, but it can't be done without a plan. Today, I've only prepared a plan for Bale's level up, so we'll talk about you guys later. Sigh. Tiona said in dissatisfaction. Why is it like this? Tyogni, Leafia, and Lily were also disappointed. AIC looked even more dejected, as if she could cry at any time, which made her look very pitiful. Only Belle looked flattered and did not know what to do at all. Alright, don't look like your parents are dead. You're all envied in the eyes of others, and you still want others to take care of you? Noah only felt at a loss of whether to laugh or cry. Besides, it's not like there's no chance, we'll talk about it later. Hearing this, everyone regained some of their spirits. They looked like children who would be dejected if they did not have candy, but happy if they had candy. It was laughable. All in all, today is your special day, Belle. Noah patted Belle's shoulder. I've already spent so much effort to help you conquer, don't let me down, okay? Hearing this, Belle opened his mouth, but did not say a word. He just nodded his head heavily. I know, leader, I won't let you down. Noah smiled. All right, let's hurry. Noah looked around at everyone. Let's try to reach the 18th floor before dark. Everyone nodded in agreement. Chapter 1982. Just like what Noah had said, the next floor was Bale's. Undoubtedly, the middle floor from the 13th floor was not a floor that a LV1 adventurer could enter at will, but in the end, it became Bale's slaughterhouse. No matter what kind of monsters appeared, Noah, Ace, Tiona, Tyan, Leafia, and even Lily just stayed behind and did not make a move from beginning to end, allowing Bale to rush through like a thunderstorm and leisurely follow him. When a monster appeared, Noah would directly activate the ability of the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, multiplying Bale's strength to the limit. Then, Bale would directly rush over and continue to fight, cutting down the monsters one by one. He would absorb the experience points that were too large for a LV1 adventurer at a speed that was close to the limit. The middle floor was originally different from the upper floor. The frequency of monsters appearing was extremely high. Therefore, Bale almost did not stop to rest, and was constantly fighting. Even if his stamina was exhausted, he would immediately drink a bottle of stamina recovery elixir and continue to rush forward. Originally, recovery items like elixirs were only used as a last resort. Using elixirs to increase the speed of leveling like Bale was simply too extravagant. At least, Lily, who had suffered for almost half of her life because of money, was distressed by such a wasteful way of spending money, and she almost cried. Those were elixirs. Even the lowest grade of stamina recovery elixir required 500 Varus worth of items. Normally, a family would only need 100 Varus to eat a full meal. These 500 Varus worth of stamina recovery elixirs would be consumed bottle by bottle. Even if one bottle was consumed every half an hour and maintained for 4 to 5 hours, that would still consume 2,000 to 3,000 Varus. Normally, they would be used to save lives, but now they were being squandered like this. It was too distressing. These were the lowest grade elixirs, and higher grade elixirs were many times more expensive. Now, the elixir that Bale was drinking was a bottle of 8,000 Varus worth. Drinking a bottle every half an hour, it was simply intolerable. After all, in the past, Bale and Lily would only earn 40 to 50,000 Varus after spending a day on the 12th floor. Normally, they wouldn't be willing to spend that much on high-grade elixirs. This time, if she didn't know that Noah would lead the team to the lower floors, Lily wouldn't have bought it. In the end, he bought it and squandered it like this. It was really not worth it. Of course, Lily didn't know that if money could be used to create a high-level adventurer, there would definitely be many spawns willing to pay the price. Therefore, when Lily was feeling distressed, the girls of Loki's clan were full of envy. It would have been great if I could have had such treatment when I was at LV1. That was the unanimous thought in the minds of the Loki girls. Under such circumstances, the young ladies of Loki's clan began to deeply realize how blissful it was to have the protection of a deity like Noah. If all of Loki's spawn used this method to level up, then within a month, Olalai would only have one strongest spawn instead of two. At this time, even AIC couldn't help but have a thought. It would be great if Noah could join the Loki's clan. Thinking about it, it's possible. It's not against the law. While thinking so, the girls watched as Bale rampaged all the way from the 13th floor to the 17th floor. During the whole process, Bale was only responsible for killing the enemies, and the one who collected the magic stones and dropped items was Lily, his support. So, with Bale's hard work, Lily's backpack was full by the time they reached the 17th floor. If this bag of magic stones and dropped items were taken to the exchange shop on the ground, it could be exchanged for at least hundreds of thousands of Varus. At the thought of this gain, Lily felt a lot better in her heart. Then, everyone arrived in front of a huge cave. Flame lightning. Along with Belle's shout, a lightning-like flame flashed past, piercing through space and shooting toward the Minotaurus with the head of a cow and the body of a human. Boom! Amidst the muffled explosion, the level 2 Minotaur was directly hit in the chest by the lightning-like flame, and a large amount of blood spilled out. It slowly fell to the ground and scattered into a pile of ashes. Phew! Bale heaved a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat on his forehead, and muttered somewhat anxiously and excitedly. Even a level 2 Minotaurus can be defeated. Back then, when they first encountered the Minotaur under Noah's lead, it was when the Loki's clan was returning from an expedition, which caused a group of Minotaur to go berserk. As a result, it caused them to flee en masse, and one of them even ran to the upper floor and came in front of the inexperienced Bale. At that time, as a rookie adventurer, Bale, who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth, asked Noah to bring him to the lower floors and encountered the Minotaur on the 7th floor. Bale clearly remembered how embarrassing he was in front of the huge Minotaur at that time, and how he was so scared that he didn't dare to move. Now, he had finally defeated a Minotaurus. At the thought of this, Bale's mood became excited. But just as Bale planned to continue to work hard and continue to fight to level up, there was not a single monster around him. Why is there no more? Bale was stunned. Lord Bale, please take a closer look. Lily walked up and sighed as she threw the magic stone of the Minotaur into her backpack. We have already come to the entrance of the 18th floor. This is the room of the level 4 floor master, Goliath. It's impossible for any monster to come close. The floor master of LV4? Belle's excited mood suddenly turned cold as if he had been splashed with cold water. Even if a monster of that level was strengthened to the limit, with Bale's current strength, it was absolutely impossible to win in a one-on-one battle with a monster of that level, right? After all, Bale was still too weak, and the number of times he could multiply was limited. Even if he strengthened to the limit, he could only reach level 4. A level 4 adventurer and a level 4 floor master. In a one-on-one battle, the former's probability of winning was almost less than 1 in 10. This was a well-trained level 4 adventurer with superb combat skills. For an adventurer like Bale, who used tricks to reach level 4, but his combat skills were still at level 1, in front of Goliath, it was estimated that it would only take a few punches, right? Can I challenge such a monster alone? Of course not, Noah said grumpily as he approached. Otherwise, I would have let you challenge the floor master directly. Why would I let you come down from the 13th floor? With that said, Noah pouted at the corner of the cave. Besides, the floor master has been defeated, didn't you see? Bale finally saw it clearly. On the side of the huge cave, The ice crystal-like wall had long been shattered into pieces, and all the gravel and debris were piled up together. It looked very messy. Was the floor master defeated? Leafia tilted her head and asked doubtfully. I haven't heard any news about this. The room where the floor master was located had an entrance to the 18th floor of the safety floor. For the adventurers who needed to go down, the floor master was an existence that could not be ignored. Therefore, whether the floor master was defeated or not was very important, and many people would pay attention to this news. If the floor master had been defeated, the news should have spread. In response, Noah said, "Don't worry. Because he was defeated yesterday, the news hasn't spread yet, right?" Huh. Leafia was suddenly stunned. How do you know? Of course I know, Noah said calmly. Because I took care of it when I went back yesterday. Leafia choked directly. Bale looked at Noah with an indescribable expression, not knowing what to say. Even if he was strengthened beyond specifications, he had no chance of winning, but the head commander could easily kill him. It was really incomparable. Okay, after a busy day, we finally reached the entrance to the 18th floor. Noah clapped his hands. Let's go in and have a good rest. We will continue tomorrow. Everyone nodded in agreement. Unknowingly, Noah had become the leader of everyone. Chapter 1983. When Noah and the rest arrived at the 18th floor through the tunnel in the depths of the cavern where the floor master was, Bale was stunned by the scene before him. There was a vast grassland in front of him. At the end of the grassland was a forest with dense trees and a river that emitted the sound of flowing water. Above their heads, at the top of the floor, countless crystals grew seamlessly like a forest of ice, sprinkling rays of sunlight down. The fresh air and beautiful environment were completely different from the underground labyrinth filled with monsters. Bale stood there in a daze. "See, Commander?" Bale asked, his eyes wide and his tongue tied. Is this a dungeon?" Bale couldn't be blamed for asking such a question. The environment and atmosphere of the 18th floor were too different from the labyrinth filled with monsters. It made him wonder if this was a dungeon. Even Lily, who had been here once, was amazed by the scenery before her, let alone Bale, who was here for the first time. "How is it? Isn't it incredible?" Tiona said with a grin. "But this is undoubtedly a dungeon. This is the first safe floor of the dungeon. Once we reach this floor, we don't have to worry about safety," Tiona said. "Everyone can rest here without worry." "But what should we do next?" Leafia carried a large backpack and looked into the distance. The elf girl who stood on her tiptoes was as beautiful as a painting. Bale couldn't help but stare at her for a few seconds. "Are we going to the town?" "Town?" Bale was dumbfounded. "There's a town here?" "That's right, there's a town here," Lily said through gritted teeth. "It's a hateful vampire town." Lily's words startled the girls. Then, they understood what she meant and laughed secretly. "Vampire town?" Only Bale, the honest and kind-hearted young man, took those words seriously. His face turned green in an instant. "How cowardly are you?" "All right, don't take Lily's angry words seriously," Noah said helplessly. "There's a town here, but if you don't have enough money, don't go. Even if you have enough money, you'd better be prepared to be cheated. The adventurers stationed in the town know that there's no supply in the dungeon. They're desperate to earn money. It's not a pleasant place for anyone." "But, little brother, shouldn't you make a trip to the town and sell your magic stones and loot?" Tiona pointed at Lily's backpack that was filled to the brim. "If you don't empty your backpack, you won't be able to continue exploring." It was not Noah who reacted to this sentence, but Lily. "Absolutely not." Lily shook her head vehemently. "If you sell your stuff here, you'll definitely be cheated." Everyone was sweating profusely when they saw Lily's strong resistance. Bale weakly raised his hand and said, Is it that serious?" "Lord Bale, you don't know how overboard the adventurers here are." Lily glared at Bale like an enraged little wolf dog. "If this bag of magic stones and loot were sold on the surface, it would be worth at least a few 100,000 Varus. If you sell it here, it won't even be half of the price on the surface." Is it that overboard?" Bale was frightened. But if you don't sell it, there won't be any profit in the future? Tiona pointed out the main point. Our backpacks are full. If we don't sell them here, no matter how many monsters we kill later on, you can only leave the magic stones and loot by the roadside for others to pick up. Is that okay? Besides, you used up a lot of spiritual potions before this, right? Leafia added. If we don't buy some here, it'll be troublesome if we don't have enough later on. Lily was on the verge of tears. She grabbed Noah's hand and complained pitifully. In other words, Lily will be cheated again? Lord Noah, please save Lily. Isn't it just being cheated? Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We're not short of money. If it's a few 100,000 Varus, we can still afford it, right? However, Lily retorted. That's not it. Other than the basic operating expenses, our clan tribe is completely broke. Huh? Noah was stunned. How can that be? Where did the money from selling the property of Apollo's clan go? It's all gone. Lily sighed. How do you think Lord Bale's magic was discovered? It was all done with money. Grimoire. It was a compulsory learning book for magic. Simply put, it was a precious item that could allow people with a mana bar to learn magic after reading it. Even if they didn't have a mana bar, it could still increase their mana bar. It was an item book that could only be written by people who had raised the two extremely rare development abilities of magic and mystery to the limit. Its price, even the lowest asking price, was the same as the first-tier equipment of Hephaestus's clan. When it was high, it could even be several times more. One must know that the first-tier equipment of Hephaestus's clan had a terrifying price of more than 10 million Varus. Therefore, the lowest asking price of a grimoire was tens of millions of Varus. When it was high, it could even be close to 100 million. It was so expensive that any clan would vomit blood. However, its effect was indeed worthy of the asking price. After all, it was an item that could allow people to discover magic and even increase their mana bar. Of course, it couldn't allow people to have a fourth mana bar. There had always been only 3 spells that could be provided by the ability value to the person who received the favor. Even Noah was no exception. But even so, if there were less than 3 mana bars, or if there was still a mana bar that hadn't been discovered, using this grimoire was equivalent to directly learning a spell or increasing the number of spells that could be learned. Just this alone was enough to show the preciousness of the grimoire. And most of the wealth from Apollo's clan was spent on it. Because Bale had always wanted to learn magic and there was a lot of money in the clan, Hestia was merciful and spent a lot of money to buy it from an acquaintance, God, for Bale to use. That was how Bale's magic was discovered. In addition, Lady Hestia also bought some magic swords and left them with Lily so that Lily could use them in an emergency. Lily lowered her voice as if she didn't want the girls of Loki's clan to know the trump card here. In addition, Lady Hestia likes to read very much, so she used all the remaining money to buy some expensive books. She spent all the savings of the clan. The asking price of a grimoire was at least tens of millions of Varus. Moreover, this item was a one-time use item. After it was used, it would lose its effect and couldn't be used again. Otherwise, it would definitely be a terrifying sky-high price of hundreds of millions of Varus. The market price of a magic sword was at least 1 million Varus. In order to save their lives in an emergency, Hestia went on a shopping spree and bought a total of 11 magic swords, spending another tens of millions of Varus. In addition to that, she also bought a lot of books that were her favorite. The clan's savings were all spent in an instant, leaving only the money that Bale and Lily had earned in the past month. Some of it was used to pay for the clan's living expenses, and only a few 100,000 Varus was left, which could be used to repair equipment and prepare items. Therefore, Noah understood. In other words, Noah said uncertainly, "Are we very poor now?" "That depends on Lord Noah's harvest in the deeper regions in the past month," Lily said with a fake smile. But yesterday, Lord Noah said that he only cared about getting lost in the past month and didn't gain much at all. He only earned a few 100,000 Varus, right? Noah was speechless. A few 100,000 Varus in a month? Those were the spoils of war that Noah had gotten from killing some monsters blocking his way on his way back yesterday. In fact, Noah didn't earn a single cent in the past month. In addition, the treasury was no longer there. Noah was no longer that tall, rich, and handsome guy who didn't need to worry about money. And so, Noah understood. I should earn money to support the family. Chapter 1984. The 18-story town was built on a cliff that was more than 200 meters high. It was a simple town built on the terrain of crystals and rock walls. As soon as they entered the town, Noah and the others saw tents, wooden huts, and many shops like stalls. Only adventurers would come here. And almost all of them were LV2 adventurers. Without this level of strength, it was impossible to pass through the middle of the 13th to 17th floor and reach this safe floor. Therefore, there was only a sparse group of people on the street, and all of them were fully armed, filling the air with an austere atmosphere. Feeling the atmosphere in the air, Bell, a new LV1 adventurer, almost subconsciously lowered his head. He almost pressed the words, "I'm a newbie, don't hit me," on his forehead. His cowering appearance really made him look like a frightened rabbit. Lily, on the other hand, was bargaining with the shop owner in the town's money exchange shop with a crisp voice. It was a pity that the shopkeeper had been picking his ears with an arrogant look, which made Lily so angry that her face turned red. Under such circumstances, Noah couldn't help but laugh while looking at AIC next to him. "What are you going to do next?" "Stay here," AIC answered truthfully. "For the next week we'll stay here." In a word, the plan of the girls of Loki's clan was clear. They were going to use the 18th floor as a stronghold, go deep into the underground city, and earn money in the deeper areas. "We have camping equipment," Tiona said proudly. "So, we'll find a place to camp. If we stay here, we'll be cruelly ripped off. As for food, we'll also be preparing to collect fruits and wild vegetables in the underground city and cook them," Tiona added. "After all, we're here to make money, and we can't be ripped off in this town." "Undoubtedly, you're LV1 adventurers, and you're living so miserably?" Noah rolled his eyes, but he understood. Adventurers are probably used to this kind of life, right? Moreover, the environment of staying in the town was not necessarily better than camping. After all, the inn was simply built with wood, and it was difficult to not leak wind, let alone rain. Staying in such an inn was uncomfortable, and one would be ripped off, so no one wanted to stay there. Therefore, camping in the wild was absolutely necessary. "What's your plan, Mr. Noah?" Rifaya asked politely. "Are you also planning to camp outside?" "I was planning to go back on the same day." Noah stroked his chin and looked at Bale, who was timidly following behind them but couldn't help but look around. He then looked at Lily, who was still desperately bargaining with the shop owner. Noah shrugged as if he had given up. "However, it's almost dark now. If we return to the surface, it will probably be dawn already. It's better to rest for the night." "That's great," Tiona said in a jubilant voice. "I have so many things to ask you." "This might be a good opportunity to dig out all your secrets, young man. Let's have a good chat tonight." Tiona also looked straight at Noah and revealed a beautiful smile. "If you agree, there will be 4 great beauties to sleep with you tonight." Noah almost vomited blood. "Sleep with me?" Rifaya blushed, and even her voice was out of tune. Don't tell me that includes me? Isn't that obvious?" Tyogni said in a mocking tone. "We only brought 1 tent, right? Young man, you didn't bring a tent, so we can all sleep together tonight." Tiona hugged AIC's arm. "AIC, you're happy too, right?" "No, I didn't." AIC stole a glance at Noah. Her pretty face turned slightly red as she stuttered. "I didn't think that way." Unfortunately, her shy and bashful appearance made people feel that she was not persuasive at all. As for Bale, his face was already so red that it was about to explode. "Everyone sleep together? Sleep with Miss Wallenstein?" Bale almost couldn't catch his breath. His face was as red as a monkey's butt, and he almost fart. No, absolutely not." Rifaya resisted fiercely and shook Tiona's hands as if begging for mercy. "I can't. If I sleep with a man, I'll definitely die." Why are you so stingy, Rifaya? Tiona said unhappily. It's not like I'll lose anything. That's right. Tioni nodded in agreement. You don't hate young man Noah either, right? Why don't we use this opportunity to improve our relationship? Not hating him and sleeping with him are two completely different things. Rifaya was on the verge of tears. She then glared at Bale with teary eyes. Besides, Mr. Noah isn't the only man here. Oh right. Tiona seemed to have just remembered this and looked at Bale. Young man's junior is here too. There's no other choice. Tiona sighed. Just as Rifaya thought that she was going to give up, she said to Bale. Young man Bale, why don't you be in charge of the night watch? Night watch? Bale opened his mouth, and tears streamed down his face. They were all men, but their leader was being fought over to sleep with others, while he was being assigned to the night watch. Indeed, there was a difference between men. Even in the dungeon, one had to be powerful to be able to have a chance encounter. Bale started to have this seemingly correct but unorthodox idea in his heart. Just as Noah was going to be the one to sleep with and Bale was going to be the one to keep watch, there was a sudden commotion in front of them. Noah and his companions were startled. They turned their heads and looked ahead. He saw that not far ahead, a group of people were gathered together, as if they were watching a show, chattering nonstop. What's wrong? Tiona was puzzled. What happened? Tiona, on the other hand, grabbed an adventurer who was about to join in the fun and asked him directly. Hey, what's going on ahead? I don't know. The adventurer seemed to be a little angry that he was suddenly caught. When he saw that it was a level 1 adventurer from Loki's clan, the corners of his mouth twitched and he answered honestly. I heard that there was a conflict between two clans. In other words, there's a fight ahead? Tiona was curious. Let's go take a look. Tiona grabbed Tiona and Rifaya's hands and ran forward quickly. Leader? Bale asked hesitantly. What should we do? Noah didn't answer. Instead, he exchanged glances with AIC, nodded, and walked forward. At this moment, Tiona had already brought Tiona and Rifaya to the back of the crowd. Let us pass. Seeing that Tiona was about to rush in, a huge commotion broke out in the crowd. Isn't that the level 1 adventurer from Loki's clan? Get out of the way. The crowd instantly dispersed, allowing Tiona, and Rifaya to pass through the separated path easily. Noah, AIC, and Bale followed behind and arrived at the center of the commotion. Finally, they saw two groups of people confronting each other. It was very easy to recognize the two groups of people. As for why, the reason was very simple. It was because one side was full of men, and the other side was full of women. The men were a group of fully armed adventurers. The women were a group of scantily clad Amazons. That was practically no different from being completely naked. The brazen attire that would cause one's heart to burn with lust made the innocent Leafia and the innocent Bale's faces turn red. They were so embarrassed that they were flustered. Tiona were the only ones who were surprised to see the two groups of people confronting each other. Aren't they from Freya's clan and Ista's clan? It's actually those two clan tribes. Ista's clan? AIC and Rifaya were slightly startled. Freya's clan? Noah raised an eyebrow and narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't expect to meet Freya's clan in this place. Was it a coincidence? Or was it a trick of the infatuated goddess? But since Ista's clan is here, the possibility of the former is higher. After all, Ista's clan was the sworn enemy of Freya's clan. Chapter 1985. Near one of Eulalie's 8 main avenues, the Southeast Avenue, there was a happy street. As the name implied, it was a night street that could make men linger and forget to return. Almost all the shops on that night street were brothels. Of course, almost all the people who lived there were prostitutes. And the clan that had the happy street as its sphere of influence was Ista's clan. Most of the members of Ista's clan were Amazons. The ratio of men to women in the clan was 1:9, and they ran brothels in the southeast block of the city. It was said that the daily income of the brothels of Ista's clan accounted for more than 40% of the total income of the entire Happy Street. Moreover, in addition to the commercial clan that ran the brothels, Ista's clan was also a very famous exploration clan. Among the members of the clan, the Amazons who were responsible for fighting were known as the battle prostitutes, and most of them were adventurers above LV3. Among them, the leader of Ista's clan was a LV5 Level 1 adventurer. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the main god of Ista's clan, Ista herself, was a goddess of beauty like Freya. That was to say, Ista was also a goddess of beauty. She had the natural ability to charm men and women alike. She was a beautiful goddess who would be captivated by her beauty. However, as a goddess of beauty, Ista had always been against Freya. There was no other reason other than the fact that Freya's clan was one of the two most powerful clans of Eulalie. Freya was also a beauty goddess, and her clan was known to be powerful. Although Ista's clan was also one of the top clans in Eulalia and was much stronger than Apollo's clan, they were still far behind Freya's clan. Among Ista's clan, the highest level leader was only LV5, while Freya's clan had the only LV7 adventurer. This fact showed the difference between the two. Not to mention, in Freya's family, there were several LV6 adventurers, not to mention LV5 adventurers. In terms of power, Freya's clan was above Ista's clan. The main god, Freya, lived at the top of the Tower of Babel, symbolizing the peak of Eulalie. In terms of strength, Ista's clan was far inferior to Freya's clan. Therefore, Ista was jealous of Freya and had been targeting Freya all the time. She had been thinking of ways to bring Freya down all the time. In view of this, the relationship between Freya's clan and Ista's clan was almost absolutely hostile. There was almost no clan in Eulalie that did not know about it. The members of the two clans actually met here? Looks like there will be a fierce fight today. Go ahead, go ahead. It's best if you destroy my stall as well. Then, I can take the opportunity to extort some money from you. Haha, you're right. The adventurers around the two clans who were confronting each other were all jeering as if they wanted to see the world in chaos. Seeing the surrounding adventurers jeering, among Ista's clan, an Amazon with a strong sense of presence snorted coldly. With this cold snort, all the surrounding adventurers suddenly shut their mouths. Seeing this scene in the crowd, Noah raised his eyebrows and whispered softly. It seems that the Amazon in Ista's clan is not an ordinary person. As soon as Noah's whisper sounded, Tiona turned around and said to Noah, "Little brother, don't you know Aisha Belka?" Aisha Belka? Noah thought for a while, then shook his head. Among Ista's clan, I only heard some rumors about the LV5 leader, but I haven't heard of Aisha Belka. Aisha Belka is very famous, Tiona began to explain. She is the leader of the battle prostitutes in Ista's family. Although she is only LV3, it is said that she is close to LV4. Among the Ista's family, where LV3 battle prostitutes are the main fighting force, there is no doubt that she is the top figure. The gods gave her the title Ligia. Ligia? Noah cast his gaze on Aisha Belka. Looking at the heroic aura exuding from her tall and slim figure, he couldn't help but smile. She does have the temperament of a heroine. Little brother, do you like Aisha? Tiona said with some anger. But it's also true. Although Aisha is only LV3 in Amazon, she is more famous than us. After all, Aisha has already tasted men, but we don't even have a man. Tiona pouted. In Amazon, we can only be regarded as little girls. We can't compare to Aisha at all. Listening to Tiona and Tiona talking about men all the time, Rafia and Belle only blushed. Even AIC was a little embarrassed. Noah was also speechless. At the same time, he once again recognized the openness of the Amazon. If it was another race, if the women in the race were known for tasting all kinds of men, their reputation would definitely be so bad that it couldn't get any worse. However, in Amazon, people who have not tasted the opposite sex would be regarded as children who have not yet grown up. This was the difference in racial perception. Therefore, among Ista's clan, the battle prostitutes were basically Amazon. There were very few prostitutes of other races. At this time, in the field, the dispute between the two clans also reached its peak. Ista's clan, don't go too far. In Freya's clan, the leader of the male adventurers roared angrily. Do you really want to start a war with us? Hearing this, the battle prostitutes of Ista's clan did not take it seriously at all. They just sneered there, but their posture was extremely provocative, which made the surrounding male adventurers breathe a little faster. Aisha, on the other hand, glanced at Freya's family members and said in an orderly manner, "It's useless to say this to me. When we heard that you were doing something in the underground city, Goddess Ista told us that no matter what you are planning to do, we only need to destroy it. So, if you have any complaints, go talk to our Lord God." This sentence made Freya's clan clench their teeth in anger. Too arrogant. Damn Ista's clan. We are here under the noble order of the goddess. Who would waste time playing games with you bunch of sluts? Freya's clan adventurers yelled while glaring at the group of sluts in front of them. In response, the sluts just laughed coquettishly. Their laughter was so seductive that it made people's stomach tighten involuntarily. However, in the next moment, a guy came out from Ista's clan, who made the men who were looking at the sluts with obscene eyes feel cold. Aisha, why are you talking so much nonsense with them? Accompanied by such an unpleasant and ear-piercing sound, a huge object approached. It was a man who was more than 2 meters tall. He wore red and black clothes that were similar to hunting equipment. He had short brown arms and legs, but his body was as sturdy as a burly man. His limbs were extremely uncoordinated with his body. Not only was his body uncoordinated, but his appearance was even more hideous. Short black hair, restless eyeballs, and a horizontally cracked mouth. That face was just like a toad's. Monster. The men's faces turned green, and they were all scared witless. In response, Weirdo Toad laughed out loud. Croak, 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 croak. Did you see that? Aisha, these men are all crying because of my beauty. As he said this, the monster glanced at the men around him with brutal eyes. I'm in a good mood today. You're in luck. I'll pick a few later and have some fun with you tonight. At this moment, all the men felt like they were prey targeted by a monster. Their faces were twisted, and their legs were trembling. However, as the toad monster swept its hunter-like gaze across the male toads, it suddenly saw a person. In the crowd, there was a blonde swordswoman wearing light clothes and a thin sword at her waist. It was Aisha. The toad monster's laughter stopped abruptly. Tiona thought of something and exclaimed at the same time. Aisha, be careful. Almost at the same time, a violent roar resounded. Aisha Wallenstein. Chapter 1986. AIC Wallenstein. Accompanied by a demon-like roar, a strange toad-like creature from Ista's clan stomped on the ground and dashed toward AIC at a speed that didn't match its huge size. The instant the roar rang out, AIC's body had already tensed up. Looking at the meteorite-like giant figure shooting over, a tinge of astonishment flashed across her eyes. However, immediately after, like a nimble butterfly, the tip of her foot pushed off the ground and her body retreated with lightning speed. Whoosh! Along with a sharp piercing sound, the gigantic figure arrived at the same instant A's retreated and heavily smashed into the ground like a meteor. Boom! A loud sound like an explosion rang out. The sudden heavy blow shattered the ground, stirring up a violent shockwave and flying sand. Ah! The onlookers who were closer to the scene were immediately affected. They were drowned by the violent impact and flying sand in a burst of sorrowful cries. One by one, they were bounced off like rubber balls and smashed into the surrounding stalls and buildings. The whole scene suddenly became completely chaotic. That monster has gone crazy. Run now. The surrounding adventurers all acted as if they had encountered an extremely terrifying monster. They fled in all directions with tears and snot in their eyes, scattering like birds and beasts. Only Tiona and Tiorn scurried away almost immediately and hid to the side. Noah also scurried away. However, unlike Tiona and Tiorn, Noah hugged Leafia with one hand and grabbed Bale's collar with the other, appearing beside the Amazon sisters in a flash. Leafia, who only reacted at this moment, realized that she was in Noah's arms. Her pretty face turned completely red. "We're saved." Bale sat on the ground with a pale face and a look of lingering fear. "Sir Noah." "But Bale." Lily ran over from afar at this moment with an anxious expression on her face. "Are the two of you all right?" "I'm fine, Lily," Bale replied subconsciously. Then he seemed to have thought of something. He quickly looked around and spoke anxiously. "Where's Miss Wallenstein? Is she all right?" Noah did not answer Belle's question. He did not seem to notice the blushing elf girl in his arms who looked as though she was about to faint. He lifted his eyes and looked ahead. Over there, in the crater created by the explosion, the toad monster's face was contorted. His face was filled with hatred and resentment as he stared at the other side. Facing Weirdo Toad's hateful and resentful gaze, AIC put one hand on the scabbard at her waist and frowned her pretty eyebrows slightly. Obviously, AIC didn't expect that Weirdo Toad to suddenly attack her. On the other hand, Tiona and Tiorn seemed to have expected this scene. That Toad girl is still holding a grudge against AIC. What an unsalvageable ugly monster. Tiona and Tiona's voices were filled with dishness. As for Noah, he looked at Weirdo Toad who was glaring at AIC and recalled the information he received. As mentioned earlier, Noah only knew the leader of Ista's spawn tribe. The big guy in front of him was the leader of Ista's spawn tribe. She was a level 1 adventurer of Ista's spawn tribe, a level 5 whore Freeny Jamil. Her title was Man Killer. She was undoubtedly an ugly monster, but she thought she had unparalleled beauty and often forced men to have fun with her until they were squeezed to death. "Ace Wallenstein," cried Franny, in a voice close to a growl. "You actually dare to appear in front of me?" "Freeny Jamil." AIC's pretty eyebrows furrowed deeper and deeper. She tilted her head and asked with a puzzled look, "Why did you attack me?" She tilted her head in confusion, her pale golden hair flowing down to her waist, reflecting the dazzling light of the sun and reflecting the breathtakingly beautiful face. Freeny's large face contorted in disgust. "Why did I attack you?" Freeny laughed with a sharp and unpleasant voice. "Because I want to. Can't I?" Now, if AIC still didn't understand that Freeny was deliberately looking for trouble, then she wasn't a natural but an idiot. AIC stared at Freeny and didn't say anything, but the feeling she gave off completely changed. If the previous AIC gave off the feeling of a harmless and cute kitten, then the current AIC gave off the feeling of a fearsome warrior who had experienced hundreds of battles. Croak, 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 croak. Freeny laughed like a toad. "What? Didn't you want to fight me too? Then why are you pretending?" Just as Freeny was about to launch another attack, Aisha and the other combat prostitutes of Ista's family approached and spoke sternly. "Freeny, Goddess Ista ordered us to deal with Freya's spawn, not Loki's spawn." "Shut up, idiot," Freeny shouted in disdain. "I don't need you to tell me what to do." "What?" Aisha's face darkened. "Do you want to disobey the order?" "Order? Who dares to order me?" Freeny was so angry that she laughed. "Anyway, those Freya's spawn trash are only LV3 like you. Just go and take care of them. Don't bother me." Freeny looked at AIC again and laughed. "I didn't expect to meet a doll girl like you in a place like this. Very well, I will crush that ugly face of yours today. Let's see if those gods, humans, and whatnot will still call you beautiful." As soon as she finished speaking, Freeny's huge body transformed into a war chariot and charged straight towards AIC. Every step she took caused the ground to rumble and tremble. She was almost twice as small as Freeny. Her figure was so slender that it was as if the wind could blow her up. However, AIC did not show the slightest bit of fear in the face of Freeny's charge. She merely placed her hand slowly on the sword at her waist. "Ms. Wallenstein," Belle couldn't help but exclaim. "Don't worry. Both Tiona and Tiona said in unison. AIC will not lose to that toad girl. As soon as Tiona and Tiona finished speaking, sword light flashed. Clang. Amidst the crisp sound of the sword at the girl's waist unknowingly turned into a flash of light. Like a fleeting meteor, it streaked across the arm of the huge enemy. Poochie. Amidst the clear sound of flesh being torn apart, blood spurted out from Freeney's shoulder as her skin was cut open. Oh 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 oh! Freeney howled in pain. But in the next moment, Freeney's expression turned sinister. What does this mean? Puppet girl. Amidst her roar, her short toad-like arms spun towards AIC like a windmill, ignoring the lacerations on her flesh. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded, and the ground was shattered once again. The shockwave and dust swept across the surroundings like a gale. However, before that, the young female swordsman leaped up and swayed into the air like a leaf. The sword in her hand once again transformed into a sword light and slashed across the toad girl's arm. Poochie. Another sound of flesh being torn apart. Freeney's tendons were severed, and blood splattered everywhere. The toad monster howled in pain like a wild beast. It was hard to imagine that it was a woman. So powerful. Belle was stunned. Her opponent was LV, 5 level 1 adventurer. In the face of such an opponent, AIC was able to easily leave wounds on his body. This was the difference between the levels of the players. It was the difference between LV 5 and LV 6. That idiot. Not far away, Aisha gritted her teeth and said to a combat whore next to her, "There's no other way. And let Freeney take down the swordswoman first." The combat whore accepted the order and left. However, the people of Ista's clan didn't notice. A pair of deep pitch-black eyes stared straight at her, flickering with a frightening light. Chapter 1987. Noah didn't know why Freeney was so hostile to AIC. However, the strength of that ugly monster was undeniable. She was definitely a level 1 adventurer. It was a genuine LV 5. There was not a trace of exaggeration. If it was the previous AIC, even if she was known as the strongest swordswoman in Eulalie, it would not be so easy to defeat Freeney. Unfortunately, in the last expedition, AIC used the noble phantasm that Noah lent her to kill the floor master in the deep area alone. She had already upgraded to LV 6. LV 5 and LV 6. At first glance, there was only one level difference, but the gap between the two could be described as heaven and earth. For those who relied purely on the grace given by God to improve their strength, this level difference was almost impossible to overcome. Even if AIC did not upgrade to LV 6 for a long time, it was the same. From the very beginning, AIC had been unstoppable, forcing Freeney into an irreversible disadvantage, proving this point even more. In other words, facing AIC who was at LV 6, Freeney who was only at LV 5 had no chance of winning. Unless Freeney had some hidden trump card. Or Ista's family had some hidden trump card. Therefore, from the beginning, Noah did not pay much attention to the battle between AIC and Freeney. Instead, he focused most of his attention on the combat prostitutes of Ista's family. It turned out that Noah's idea was correct. Ista's family did have some important hidden trump card. And that trump card quickly appeared in front of Noah. Quick, push it up. With the order of a combat prostitute of Ista's family, a large cargo was pushed up. It was a large iron box used to transport supplies. The capacity of the box was very large, at least able to fit several people. There was a piece of cloth covering it, making it impossible to see the situation inside. However, Noah felt it. In that box, there was a presence. A presence that was not strong, even a little weak. Aisha reached out and opened the lid of the box. In the next moment, Noah almost doubted his eyes. Because what was in the box was neither a monster nor goods, but a person. There was a girl sitting upright at the bottom of the box. She was wearing a kimono and a feather-like armor on her head. The girl wasn't human. The girl had waist-length golden hair that was brighter than AIC's. She had a pair of fox-like ears on her head and a fox-like tail on her back, proving that she was the real deal. Vulpera? Noah's brows furrowed tightly. What was Ista's clan going to do? Was that Vulpera a member of Ista's clan? Then why put him in the box? While Noah was confused, Aisha lowered her head and whispered to the Vulpera girl in the box. In the next moment, the Vulpera girl raised her head and revealed a beautiful face that was both charming and pure. She looked at Franny, who was being suppressed by AIC, and lowered her head again. Right at that moment, a faint mana fluctuation surged from the Vulpera girl's body. Wang! An inexplicable trembling sound rang out, and everyone present saw it. Specks of light flickered from her body like fireflies, covering her huge toad-like body. In the next second, everyone, including Noah, was shocked. Friolini, who was being suppressed by A's, suddenly let out a loud cry. Above the giant body, an unbelievably violent pressure suddenly surged. Croak, croak, croak. Is it finally here? Freeney laughed heartily as she observed AIC's astonished expression. Her eyes began to move irregularly from top to bottom, left to right, as a frightening murderous glint flickered within. Go to hell! With an ear-piercing roar, Freeney's short arm swung down like a thick club. Bam! The astonishing power caused the ground to suddenly shatter, exploding with a terrifying impact. It was mixed with pieces of rubble, shaking in all directions and shooting out like bullets. AIC obviously didn't expect Franny to suddenly become so strong. While she was shocked, the rocks that turned into a hail of bullets rained down on her like a storm. AIC didn't dare to be careless. She swung the thin sword in her hand, which transformed into streaks of cold sword radiance that interweaved like raindrops and met the rain of bullets. Bam, 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 bam. Amidst the continuous muffled explosions, the broken rocks that had transformed into bullets were all detonated by the gorgeous sword radiance, raising gusts of wind and dust. However, at the same time, a shadow also enveloped AIC, blocking the sunlight that shone on her body. AIC! Tiona, Tiny, Leafia, and the other girls cried out in alarm. Almost at the same time, AIC abruptly raised her head and looked towards the sky. Whoosh! Amidst the sharp sound of breaking air, a huge black shadow transformed into a meteorite that fell from the sky like a mountain. It rubbed against the air and heavily smashed towards AIC. Boom! Amidst the deafening roar, the huge body that had turned into a black shadow smashed the ground until it exploded. Layers upon layers of the ground caved in, causing the storm-like impact chi to sweep up and explode in all directions. At the critical moment, AIC took a step back and leaped a small distance away. Therefore, the huge black shadow that fell from the sky didn't land on AIC and cause a direct hit. However, AIC wasn't happy, but rather shocked. This was because the huge black shadow that fell from the sky had already raised its arm, and with its overwhelming size advantage, it swept towards AIC along with the shockwave. Whoosh! The whistling sound of a strong wind rang out. The fierce blow from the short limbs caused Freddy's fist to become like a cannonball that ruthlessly smashed towards AIC's face. Looking at the momentum, even if AIC's head didn't explode, her fragile face would be smashed into pieces if she was hit. Freddy was so vicious that her attack was aimed at AIC's face on purpose. Clang! The sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. AIC raised her weapon in front of her in time to block the cannonball-like fist that came straight at her. However, the powerful force still sent AIC flying like a ball that was slapped away. Her feet rubbed against the ground and left 2 deep marks on the ground. She only stopped after sliding for more than 100 meters. Phew! Tiona, Leafia, Bale, and even Lily couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. The situation just now was really too thrilling. One wrong move and AIC would have been seriously injured by that toad girl before anyone could react. And it would have ended with her disfigurement. Tiona, and Rifaya were enraged when they realized this. Only AIC slowly lowered her sword-wielding hand. The sharp-eyed Noah saw it. AIC's hand that was holding onto the sword was trembling without a trace. It was a phenomenon of numbness from the tremendous force. AIC looked at Freddy with a solemn expression and murmured, "LV6, that's right." At this moment, the combat power Freddy displayed was not something a LV5 could possess. Although they didn't know what method Freddy used, it was an indisputable fact that Freddy's combat powers suddenly increased to LV6. Why? AIC was confused. At this time, Aisha and the others had already closed the lid of the box and made the Vulpur girl disappear in front of everyone without anyone noticing. Except for Noah. That Vulpur girl is the problem. With absolute certainty, Noah determined the reason for Franny's sudden increase in strength. Tiona, Leafia, and the others who didn't see the Vulpur girl were both furious and bewildered. Croak, croak, croak. Franny was still laughing triumphantly. What LV6 strongest swordswoman? Sure enough, it was only to this extent. Croak, croak, croak. Hearing this, the confusion on AIC's face gradually disappeared. She looked at Franny, her hand reaching for the bracelet on her wrist. Seeing this, Noah finally spoke. "All right, there's no need to use your trump card in this situation. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.